Suddenly, a thought appeared in Island's mind. It's her again. He sat down on the chair next to her, unable to resist glancing at the girl. Her image flooded his mind. Island remembered he had accidentally met her here a few times. He crossed his arms, closed his eyes, leaned against the wall, and thought silently. Today she came home late again. Thoughts kept pouring in Yeo Un's heart. Today was the same. She and I would catch the last train together. The GA yard was empty. He sat quietly, flipping through his notebook. But his eyes couldn't help but look toward her. Island suddenly thought about the musical instrument she carried. He wondered if she was a music student or a member of a band. Perhaps his gaze was too obvious. It made the girl tilt her head slightly and glance at him. Seeing her, he panicked and quickly turned his face away, then met her eyes again. Island silently scolded himself for daydreaming and staring like a fool. After calming down, he pondered over his notebook, his heart tangled like threads. Although we often meet here, maybe only I noticed that. Then Island told himself these things were just coincidences, not fate. Two people sat on two chairs separated by a distance, but it was like an invisible wall that couldn't be broken. The girl remained silent and thoughtful, while Island had already closed his notebook. He sighed, took off his earphones. Reading no longer entered his mind, so he listened to music instead. He looked at his phone screen with some joy, choosing to listen to this song again today. The screen showed his favorite music, the melodies. Playing lifted his mood significantly. The intro of this song was truly top-notch. No matter how many times he heard it, he was still enchanted. The first part was equally wonderful, he thought silently. This song was really good, but hardly anyone knew about it. That great music, to him, was this song and also Long Afternoon. While Island was feeling sentimental, he noticed a problem. Huh? Why does it sound muffled today? He tapped the earphones a few times, blaming the cheap earphones for being broken. Then he pressed buttons on his phone to increase the volume a bit more to test it. The sound level kept rising, without showing signs of stopping, even exceeding a suitable level. Suddenly, that girl came close and shouted loudly into his ear. Sorry. That startled Island, who dodged and took off his cheap earphones. He looked at the beautiful face very close, stammering, yes. Yeo Un spoke up, reminding him, can you lower the phone volume? I heard it clearly from over there. Island awkwardly handled the situation with his phone. Then he slowly realized the earphones weren't connected. He complained about the cheap earphones. Seeing that, she said nothing more, sighed helplessly, then glanced at his phone screen from the corner of her eye. Then Yeo Un asked, do you also like this song? Elon was stunned. She explained, it's a song by Long Afternoon. I also like that song, he blankly said, looking at her. Then his face lit up, with sparkling effects like a fan seeing their idol, extremely happy. He jumped up and blurted out, really? That's awesome, I'm a big fan of that artist too. She also liked Long Afternoon? Yeo Un answered shyly. Yeah, but in her heart, she was certain. However, that didn't lessen Island's excitement. He exclaimed, that's great! I've never met anyone who likes Long Afternoon. Their music is really good, but since they're an indie artist, few people know about them. She smiled faintly and said, yeah, not many fans. Their music doesn't suit the mainstream taste. No promotion, no interaction. Island also felt regretful, looking at his phone screen and sighed, that's right. If they held concerts and posted videos, it would spread everywhere, but they do nothing. His profile picture on the account named Kinovko was just a few character drawings. The person posted on Instagram. Then he said the direction he thought of. If they posted casual photos or revealed their face, surely there would be more fans. Hearing that, she asked, do you think they should show their face? Elon replied, not necessarily. She listened intently as he explained, as a fan, I want to meet them and am curious what they look like. But I also think it's good when they live their own way. The more he spoke, the more focused Yeo Un became. The fact that this artist only focuses on composing, isn't influenced by anything else, and keeps their mystery is also very good. I like Long Afternoon also because she slightly bowed her head, her two-toned black and blue hair covering her face. Only her eyes revealed an alluring smile. Then she suddenly spoke. We've met here a few times already, right? The question, unrelated to the previous topic, made him a bit dazed. Then EU quickly reacted. He nervously scratched his head. I'm not sure, but actually inside he was panicking. Better to pretend not to know her, than risk her finding out he was secretly watching, while he was still confused. She had already arrived at the train waiting area, and asked, is this train number 50? Just then, the station announcement sounded. The train was about to arrive. She didn't turn fully around, just mysteriously said, I thought you already knew, then tilted her head to look back and smiled attractively. Because you kept looking at me, right? The question made the confused person freeze, lost in memory because of that smile. Then he was like someone falling in love for the first time, dazed, as if pulled into another world and swallowed whole by the thoughts in that world, unable to. She also knew that I had been following her all this time. He looked at her confident smile and blurted out that both of us always take the last train together. Then a heart-wrenching scream echoed. Jan held his head and screamed. Recalling these things made him ache. Then Oyudu heard the scream and hurried over to ask what happened. What happened? Did some jerk spam the reviews? Yaun saw someone coming and quickly shared his feelings. Boss, what should I do? People think I'm a pervert or a stalker, so what? She didn't understand what he was mumbling and asked back. Stalker? Why would you say that? The atmosphere in the cafe was quietly captivating. Customers silently worked on their own tasks. After Oyuzu heard the whole story Yeo Un told, she calmly replied, "Oh, it's nothing. You mean she also pays attention to you, right?" He nervously scratched his head and answered, "I'm afraid I make her uncomfortable, saying she keeps meeting a pervert at the station," Oyudu explained after hearing him. "If she really found me scary, she would have avoided the station a long time ago, right? Not just now," he replied. Then she comfortably suggested, "If you're worried, next time talk properly with her. Then you'll know what she thinks about you." She transformed into a romantic movie fan, smiling, excitedly predicting, who knows, a love story might begin. He was speechless. "That love story sounds too absurd." Oyudu asked why it's absurd. "You also pay attention to her, right?" He was silent, didn't answer, thought for a moment, then replied, "Yes, I do pay attention, but the kind of feelings you're talking about, I don't have." He always put his hand behind his neck, intertwined with strands of hair, insecure about himself. "At this point, I don't like anyone. Next year I'll graduate. I have to prepare for job applications and work part-time to pay rent." She silently listened as he narrated about his life. "I'm just curious because I often see her. Why does she come home late? What does she do for work?" Finally, she bluntly said, "Not all love stories start like that, right?" He blushed, irritated from smoke and talking too much, but she barely noticed. She shyly scratched her head and said, "Just being friends is enough, a friend to share a passion for music." She smiled as if understanding. "But as you said, most relationships start like that." Then he angrily stomped and refuted. "No. She gave you order info and requests only. Stop it. Let's get back to work. There's an order now." A story was put aside, but the voice still echoed in the quiet space of the shop. 2 strawberry smoothies, 1 lemonade ready, then night fell covering the cafe. Yoon leisurely left, blending into the bustling crowd. He walked while pondering, she will also take the last train today, right? He kept telling himself if he met her again today, he would definitely apologize for spying from behind. He had to clarify so she wouldn't think he was a weirdo. But inside, he also hoped and really wanted to have a deep conversation about long afternoon with her. It's hard to find someone who also likes long afternoon. He stopped, looked up at the pitch-black sky, then silently hoped she thought the same as him. A middle-aged drunk uncle was snoring loudly on the waiting chair. He saw his usual spot taken and was surprised. But he couldn't disturb that uncle. He was still snoring soundly. He was very annoyed. Why is this guy sleeping here? I always sit here, imagining starting a conversation with her vanished, making him want to cry. Now he couldn't just sit next to her and start talking naturally. Haei glanced over there and got interested. He turned away to hold his notebook, flipping through the pages. Probably had to just endure standing and studying today. Trying to force a conversation would be awkward. His mood plummeted uncontrollably as he looked through each page back and forth. He didn't want to make her misunderstand, nor did he want to widen the distance between them. Today he silently passed by. Then suddenly he heard her voice from behind, which stunned him. He intended to wait. Really? He turned around in confusion. "Yes," she said. "The train won't arrive for a long time. Are you planning to wait forever?" He explained. Because there are no seats left." She spoke up. "What did you say?" Then Yeo Un comfortably patted the spot next to her, inviting him. "There's still a seat right beside me." She smiled, her eyes sparkling. "Just sit down naturally." His invitation made him blush. He sat waiting until the last train arrived, glancing at Yeo Un, who was waiting for him to come over. He felt shy and a bit embarrassed, thinking about the seat next to him. Subconsciously, a distant memory appeared. A girl holding a cigarette also invited him to sit. At that time, he and she sat close like this. The image flooded back, making him hesitate to step forward. His hand holding the notebook tightened slightly. He thought, what happened then is then, and now is now. He moved forward and plopped down beside her, telling himself he'd just sit for a moment then leave. He sat at a distance. He considered psychologically safe. This distance should be fine. She started the conversation. "Are you late again today? Do you usually take the train at this hour?" He replied, "I work the night shift at a cafe. Today the owner let me off early, but many days I finish late." She smiled lightly without looking at him and said, "So you're working part-time?" Then she turned to him and asked more questions. "Are you still in college?" He answered, "Yes, I'm in my final year." She exclaimed in surprise, "You must be busy preparing for graduation." He replied, "Yeah, it's so." She sat up straight and sighed. Working and studying at the same time must be tiring. Finally, he asked back, "What about you? Did you just finish work too?" Yeo Un answered nonchalantly, "No, I just like to meet people with strange tastes before going home." He was shocked, replying loudly, "Strange tastes?" In his disbelief, she still calmly leaned on her hand and replied, "I mean people with unique, a bit edgy hobbies. I serve those kinds of customers before heading home." His rich imagination started working again. Images of Nam dressed as a servant girl appeared clearly. Seductive service girl images flashed. He was shy about the unique, edgy taste. Then the image of her in a short, revealing dress, grabbing a man's hair and holding a whip appeared. Looking this way, those silly thoughts, he dismissed himself. What? Don't tell me it's some dark world he didn't know about? She saw him dizzy from his own thoughts and laughed amusedly. Then Yeo Un stretched her arms slowly to explain to the shocked guy, "What I meant was a recording studio. A studio with practice rooms and recording." She explained more clearly, An office band rents the place to practice at night. I'm the studio manager. Many days I just catch the last train. Sometimes I even have to stay up all night. He awkwardly glanced at her, seeming not to fully believe or maybe scared by his own previous thoughts. He replied, "Oh, I see. A music studio." She smiled faintly and asked if he was just thinking something strange, which startled him and he quickly denied. "No," she laughed teasingly. "Not thinking nonsense? Just because I said edgy. Edgy is a music genre." He blushed shyly and denied again. No, I wasn't thinking anything." Then they exchanged words, teasing each other. Really teasing for real. Really, after a while he shyly realized, oh my, she totally led the conversation flow. "Maybe I look easy to talk to." She casually asked, "How do you know long afternoon?" She put her hands in her jacket pockets and asked him, "You're busy studying and working. How do you have time to explore niche music genres? How do you know such little-known artists?" He scratched his cheek lightly and replied, "It's not really exploring, just by chance," he explained. "Once I had a bad cold and was bedridden. I live alone. No one to take care of me, so I just stayed home. At that time, he had a high fever, lying curled up on the bed, scrolling his phone. He told, the house was too quiet, making me feel lonely, so I decided to play some music and randomly searched online. Then happened to hear that person's song. It was the song with the kid Uki sitting on a pink stone planet. He said it was Dance Planet by Long Afternoon. Recalling that time, he smiled lightly and said at first he just thought the melody was nice, but the more he listened, the more he loved everything about it. In that feverish moment, he recalled and continued with the lyrics, something like wanting to throw everything away with the phrase, "let it be." During that lonely high fever, he felt like the little Uki in the song, dancing all night long. His experiences made Yeo Un, in the role of a listener, realize something she had long lost. He didn't pay attention and asked her what her favorite song by Long Afternoon was. That person didn't have many songs, but she quickly turned away and hurriedly replied, "I also like Dance Planet. Tide and Flow is very good too." Her words seemed to switch on something in him, making Yeo Un's eyes light up excitedly as he loudly said, "Tide and Flow is great!" Especially the part where the rhythm changes after the chorus, it's extremely captivating, and he kept enjoying it. Extremely excited, he rapidly fired off. Long Afternoon really uses electronic instruments skillfully, right? She listened, blushing shyly and stammering, yes, that's right." Just then, the train pulled into the GA station, and she reminded him, "The train is here." Only then did he awkwardly realize, oh, it's already late? She picked up her instrument and slung it over her shoulder. Her eyes glanced at him with a hint of shyness that was hard to hide. She took a few steps, then stopped and said, "About what you said earlier." She glanced at him and continued about the phrase, "let it be." He was just lifting his backpack. Listening to her, she said, "If Long Afternoon could hear this, he'd be very happy." He scratched his head embarrassedly and replied, "Really?" After that, he fell into deep thought with countless reflections in his mind. "I want to talk a little more. Not because I want to date or get closer, but just because I want to continue talking about things we both like first." As she got on the train, he suddenly introduced himself. "I'm Yeo Un," then hesitantly asked, "May I know your name?" She stood silently looking at him, then smiled gently and brightly, replying, "Shin Yeo Un." She turned and said, "Now you know my name, so if we meet again, remember you have to be the one to say hello first. Otherwise, I'll ignore you forever." He was thrilled inside and quickly said, "Yes, see you again." Before the train departed, in the darkness, the apartment building stood closely lined along the hallway home, carrying a sense of emptiness and loneliness. Yeo Un, just finished bathing, stepped out of the bathroom with steam still clinging to her body. She used a towel to dry her wet hair, sighed, then plopped down on the bed. She wiped her face with the towel, thinking of Yeo Un. Is that right? She recalled the time when she was sitting on the train heading home. She looked up and suddenly saw a wallet drop at the feet of a middle-aged man who was snoring loudly, fast asleep. She wondered if the drunk man had dropped his wallet, because if it stayed there, someone might take it. Suddenly, a hand appeared and picked it up. It was Yeo Un, calmly putting the wallet into the drunk man's pocket. Then she saw him casually return to his original seat. At that moment, she closed her eyes to rest. She thought he might have just placed it nearby, but putting it in the coat pocket could easily be misunderstood as a pickpocket so naive. These thoughts kept circling about him, but a good person like that wouldn't overthink when doing something kind. She lay on the bed, hands on her forehead, her thoughts still racing. I know he's a good person. But she didn't expect the image of him excitedly talking about Long Afternoon being #1 genius. Truly, she found it hard to describe being such a hardcore fan of Long Afternoon. She rolled over, buried her face in the pillow, and continued to daydream. If he knew I was Long Afternoon, would he like me or not? That thought pushed her back to her youth, but for her, it was like hell. At that time, she could only stand frozen there, watching her classmates mock about it, while the constant clicking sounds echoed in her ears. One after another, the sounds continued. She startled out of that memory and sat up, rubbing her forehead. I'm thinking about things I shouldn't be thinking about. How annoying, she thought. Anyway, people who like Long Afternoon like the music, not the person. She hugged her knees, drowning herself in negative thoughts. I don't need to reveal that I am Long Afternoon. I just need to keep composing good music. The image of Uki still remains. Even if Kino is the one everyone notices. She lay back down, thinking, I'm fine living as Shin Hae-in, as long as I'm myself, as long as I can still do what I love. Then she slowly drifted off to sleep in a place with Uki and the things she loved. Chupba, in a cluttered music store, Hae-in was on duty supervising there and took the opportunity to sketch something. On the screen is a child, Hae-in thinking to herself. I wonder if this photo has a frame to post on Instagram. Suddenly, a few lively guests stepped out. I told you that photo is awesome. Hae-in immediately stood up. You're checking out, right? The chestnut-haired guest replied yes. Then he asked, oh, can I book for next Monday at the same time? Hae-in asked, room A? Sure, I'll write it down. The chestnut-haired guest politely replied yes. His face suddenly flushed. Oh, and the chestnut-haired guest hesitated. May I have your phone number or Insta? Actually, I've wanted to message you for a long time. Hae-in hesitated, looked at him for a moment, then finally bowed her head to refuse. Sorry. The chestnut-haired guest was startled. He turned to complain to his friend. Oh my god, so embarrassing. The friend laughed gleefully. I told you it wouldn't work, you idiot. Hae-in witnessed this but didn't think much. Finally, she held the cleaning tools in her hand and thought, let's clean up. The instruments from earlier were quickly arranged neatly. Hae-in moved on to vacuuming. At that moment, Hyunsung entered, calling loudly. Hae-in! Hae-in was surprised. Uncle, you're home early today. Hyunsung looked tired and replied, the rehearsal was simple, so it finished early. This is Shin Hyunsung, Hae-in's uncle, studio manager and line engineer. Suddenly, the uncle looked excited and abruptly said, Hey Hyunsung, pointing behind. Why did you reject her? Uncle thought you liked her. Hae-in was embarrassed. Uncle noticed. Why are you sneaking a look? Hyunsung calmly replied, I'm not sneaking. I just happened to see. But why didn't you give your number? Not interested? Hae-in explained in circles. We don't like talking on the phone, whether calling or texting. You can't see their face. But the real reason is behind that, she insisted. And more importantly, that band isn't my style. Hyunsung was helpless. So that's the reason, he thought, then said. Oh, there's something I need to tell you. Today's 10 o'clock recording session is cancelled. Hyunsung gently slung his backpack over his shoulder and reminded, so you just need to clean here, then you can leave early. The rest I'll handle. Hae-in looked at the clock confused. It's only 8 o'clock. She was secretly happy inside. So today you can compose at home. Great. Then Hyunsung barged in. Hae-in, he took out a gift bag from his backpack. Here, a gift for you. Hae-in was flustered. A gift? Thanks, uncle. But why? Hyunsung smiled. Today is White Day. The thoughtful uncle bought it on the way home. He encouraged, make music while sipping coffee. This is trending online. Hae-in thoughtfully admired the gift box. Suddenly she spoke. Uncle, Hyunsung replied. Hae-in asked. Before going home, can I practice guitar a bit? Hyunsung was surprised. Sure, do whatever you want. Much later when it was dark, the cafe where Yoon worked had closed. Yoon loudly called out, Boss, I'm leaving first. Oh, Yoo-doo happily popped her head out. Okay, she gave a spontaneous thumbs up. Have a romantic trip home. Yoon was puzzled. What? Subway station was quiet now. One shadow. Yeo-un tiredly plopped down on a chair, muttering, I planned to practice writing skills this summer break, but ended up struggling as usual. Yeo-un was startled and looked up. Hae-in was now in front of him. Yeo-un called her Hein. He shyly said, Hello. Hein replied, Hi. Immediately, he was shocked, noticing something unusual. Yeo-un quickly noticed the item in Hein's hand. A gift? She's holding a gift. Why did I only notice now? Hae-in realized and explained, Oh, this? Today is White Day. I got a gift. Yeo-un replied awkwardly. Oh, really? His heart surged like waves. Hein must be very popular, beautiful, and stylish too. Yeo-un unconsciously distanced himself. There must be many wonderful people around her. She probably often receives gifts. Anyway, I don't care. I'm not that close to her. Hae-in suddenly started a conversation. Studying is hard, huh? Yul suddenly asked, Oh, Hein offered a candy pack. Eat this to get some energy. Sweets help clear your mind. Yul shyly scratched his head. Why are you giving this to me? Isn't this your gift? Hae-in honestly admitted, I don't like sweets. If I bring them home, I just throw them away, so you just eat it. Aylin blushed deeply. No, but it's a bit weird for a guy to be given this. Hae-in was confused, men? Ellen was even more confused. Well, it's White Day. Men give gifts to women. Both fell into an awkward silence. Hae-in spoke up to break the atmosphere. This is my uncle's gift, she helplessly asked. You really think I would give back a gift received from someone else? So ridiculous. Yoon wants to disappear into the ground, huh, uncle? He quickly laughed out loud. Let's just let it go. Suddenly changing the subject in a hurry. Huh? What is this? Candy or chocolate? Hae-in sighed, thinking silently how silly he was. Then she replied, I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know, but it's handmade caramel candy. I heard it's very popular. Hae-in continued, It's really sweet. Eat it during your study break. Without sugar, it's hard for the brain to function well. He quickly opened the candy wrapper and looked with sparkling eyes. Handmade caramel? I've never seen this before. He smiled and suggested she try a few pieces too. It's a gift from your uncle, so it's thoughtful and worth trying. Hae-in coldly agreed. Yeah, I have to tell uncle how I feel about it tomorrow. He would be sad otherwise. She immediately turned and said, "Then give me one piece." Hae-in opened her mouth, ignoring Yoon's shocked eyes. He was stunned and confused, leaning back. "You want me to feed it to you? Why?" Hae-in calmly said, "Yeah, I'm tuning the strings. My hands are oily now." She pointed to her tongue. "It's not convenient to hold food now. Just put it on my tongue. I'll just suck it." Yoon avoided her. "You can take it home and eat it." But Hae-in insisted, "Just feed me, please." Yoon complied. "Okay, fine." He neatly unwrapped a candy bar. Hae-in gently tucked her hair back. The candy bar was placed into her mouth. Suddenly, Hae-in exclaimed, "7 bars!" Yoon panicked. "What's going on?" Hae-in shyly replied, "This is way too sweet." Yoon doubted. "Really?" Hae-in confirmed, "Yeah, you try it." Yoon took a risk and put the whole bar in his mouth. He couldn't help but shout, "It's really sweet." Hae-in seemed to have found an ally. "Right? It's so sweet it gives me a headache." She thought you definitely have to eat it with coffee or bitter tea, otherwise the flavor won't balance. Yoon immediately agreed. "Diamond opinion, you're right. Too sweet indeed." Then he cheerfully asked, "Do you want another piece?" Hae-in declined. "No thanks, that's enough." The next morning after they returned home, the house was quiet and peaceful. Yoon comfortably slept on the spacious 100 square meters bed. The alarm clock sound was always annoying. Yoon sat up and frowned. "What is this? I just closed my eyes for about 30 minutes and it's already morning?" He rubbed his eyes and wondered what to have for breakfast. Or was it Yoon's gaze fixed on the candy box from yesterday? He decided. "Luckily, it's the caramel candy Hae-in gave me yesterday, so I still have some." Yoon casually tossed a piece into his mouth. The sweetness in his mouth stunned him. Yoon screamed. "It's really sweet as expected." So sweet it made him dizzy and woke up his brain. He decisively got out of bed. But thinking about it, it's good to wake up from sleep and start a new day perfectly. Suddenly, his phone vibrated in his hand. Yoon's eyes lit up when he saw the message. He exclaimed, "This is an update from long afternoon." Yoon has already started the next day. At the familiar coffee shop, he enthusiastically worked. "Customer number 22, iced Americano and green grape juice. Here you go." Yoon was very energetic. "Customer number 34, 2 hot mochas. Done." He was full of energy. "Customer number 46, English breakfast tea. Here you go." "Oh," Yoo-doo was extremely confused. "What? Instagram?" The aura radiating from Yoon. Finally, that person posted something new. Based on previous habits, most likely a new song is coming out soon. This attitude made Oyuzu freeze on the spot. Yoon continued to monologue, "I wonder what kind of song it will be this time. Just imagining it made me so excited I couldn't sleep." Oyuzu sighed. "So that's how it is. I thought it would be something romantic." Yoon wondered. "Romantic," Oyuzu explained. "Do you remember the girl you said you often met on the last train? I thought there was some progress between you two." At this moment, Yoon was a bit embarrassed. "Progress? I told you, I don't like her." Oh, Yoo-doo was dissatisfied. "But if you meet often, wouldn't you get closer?" Yoon affirmed. "Still nothing. Lately, I haven't even seen her." Suddenly, he remembered. Yoon crossed his arms, recalling. "Recently, we might have made some progress. We exchanged names." The next detail caught Oyudu's attention. "She even gave me caramel and white zen." "This girl has awakened the demon inside me," Oyudu asked. "Really? How did you exchange names? Did she say hers first? Or did you ask first? How did it end up like that?" Yoon hesitated. "I said my name first, then asked hers." In his mind, Oyuzu imagined, "Or you ask first how it ended up like this." Aeon hesitated and said her name first, then asked again in her head, Oyuzu already. Imagining a romantic scene like in the movie Springtime Introductions, the name of a Korean drama she was watching. "Can you tell me your name?" Oyuzu asked excitedly. Then after that, "Did you two eat anything together?" To thank for the gift or maybe go for a drink. Eojun shyly scratched his head just that much. Oyuzu's mood immediately sank. She's 7 gloomy. "What's wrong? So boring. If you're willing to take one more step, maybe I have something to tell you over drinks tonight." "I'm dissatisfied. My personal issues can't be your drinking material." Shop owner. Oyudu is buzzing like a fly. "Yes, there's nothing to be shy about between us. Let me tell you another hot story." Ayul immediately cut her off. "No need for that." At that moment, a customer spoke up. "Let me order." Yul replied, "Yes." The customer wore a hat covering his face. "A cappuccino for me, please." That customer was Hyunjae. "If possible, to go." Yul happily accepted the order. "Got it. When we finish, we'll call by number." At that moment, he quietly watched Hyunjae's figure leave. Yeo Un thought, "That person looks so familiar. Who is that?" Oh, Yuju noticed something unusual. Yun honestly said, "That guest just now looked very familiar." Immediately, Oyudu looked up. "Who? That person?" She looked once and immediately recognized him as Sung Hyun-ji. Sung Hyun-ji, 28 Rivers, Sung indie artist, songwriter, singer Kim, CA singer, right? It really is him. Why is he here? Not sure if he really likes our coffee shop, but actually, he's a regular customer. That made her even more excited. "Really? Since when?" "Quite a while ago." At first, I didn't recognize him either, but a friend who passed by told me. She also shouted just like you now. Eojun gradually calmed down, thinking no wonder he looked familiar. "He's a celebrity," he exclaimed happily. "The hottest artist these days is also a regular customer. Keep it up, that's great." A cheerful greeting rang out. Thank you, dear customer. See you again. Then Hyunji slowly walked out to his car, stepped in, and the car drove away. Hyunji was looking at his phone while enjoying his coffee. He smiled passionately. Hyunji listened repeatedly to the song Long Afternoon. This person's song is really profound. He liked the singing style, which was special, and whether by accident or on purpose, that mysterious vibe was exactly his type. After a moment of contemplation looking at the screen, finally, Hyunjae decided he should DM this person. Maybe they could meet or even collaborate. Suddenly, it was late at night again. Island finished work happily and went home. Actually, he felt a bit hopeful. Not sure if he'd meet Shin Hae-in today. Hoped to see her. Yeo Un imagined the scene. Both of them skipping happily. Surely Shin Hae-in had seen Long's new Insta post, afternoon, and he wanted to discuss some hidden details in that picture. Thinking of that, his face flushed a bit. Yeo Un quietly looked up at the night sky, talking about what he liked so freely. Was truly the best feeling. After a while, he arrived at the train station, but the familiar figure was no longer there. Yeon stood alone looking down the quiet hallway, but today, he still didn't see her. He felt a bit disappointed and wondered, since yesterday, haven't met again. Busy, huh? Or maybe her work schedule changed? Yeon cried silently inside. Or did I do something wrong so now she's avoiding me? Maybe she hates my reaction when I got caught that day. Thinking of this, he sighed, disappointed in himself. Yeon wondered if he had hoped too much and was disappointed again. At that moment, Hae-yoon suddenly appeared behind him. What are you disappointed about? Hello, miss. He was excited like a little dog not seen for a long time. I thought I wouldn't see you today either. Hae-in asked. Is that why you're sad? Ayul was momentarily surprised. Hae-in repeated mysteriously. Sad because you didn't get to see me? Ayul awkwardly replied. Huh? Well, a little. He noticed she looked different today. Her face flushed. Yoon guessed quickly, don't tell me. Finally, he spoke. Hae-in, did you drink? Hae-in laughed loudly, admitting, pretty obvious, huh? I just sat drinking alone at an izakaya. She finished speaking and plopped down on a nearby chair. Just finished something I was doing. So I only drank a little to celebrate. Congratulations, Yul. What are you doing? Hae-in mysteriously gestured. That's a secret. This unexpected action caught Yul off guard. He immediately turned his face away, startled. She laughed, looking really cute. Hae-in when drunk is truly the cutest. Yeo Un tried to stay calm. She was really beautiful. Don't sober up. Let's change the subject, he blurted out. Ah, Miss Hae-in. Did you see the photo Long Afternoon posted on Insta? Eon was telling an unfinished story. Suddenly, a notification sound rang. The train was arriving at the station. He was flustered, not knowing what to do. So fast, Eon screamed inside. I haven't even said half of what I intended to say, and now we have to part ways. Could it be that I walked too slowly today? The train was noisy, making it impossible to have a proper conversation. Hae-in was confused while he scratched his head, wondering what to do now. What should I do? There are so many things I want to tell. Today, Yeo Un seems worried. If I wait too long, the feelings will fade away. I don't know what to say anymore. I have to say it now today. I've decided to take a risk. Hae-in's face lit up excitedly. Do you want to go have another drink together? Hae-un was puzzled for a moment, then said, Ah, you want to confirm right now? The announcement sounded, urging the two of them that the train was about to arrive. It was the last train. Chupnam-yoon approached Hae-un and gave a thumbs up to show he was okay, but inside he was very nervous. Oh no, what did I just say? I wanted to talk more but suddenly invited her for a drink. It's like I'm some idiot flirting with a stranger on the street, he whispered to himself. He imagined someone flirting with her, inviting her out with him, then immediately panicked and spoke up. Ah, I'm sorry, Hae-in. About what I said earlier, you two look like a couple right now. He tried to explain to her, but seeing Yoon so awkward, she simply said briefly, Let's go drink. Those words pierced his heart like an arrow. Yoon blushed and asked, Ah, Hae-in, do you find the guy in front of you interesting? She immediately took the initiative to speak. For some reason, today, I don't want this meeting to end like this. Hae-in's oval face flushed as she continued, So let's have a little drink. Just a little. Those words made Yoon speechless and confused because the subway was just starting to move, and he awkwardly agreed. Inside, it was quite empty. Only a few scattered passengers were sitting there. Yoon and Hae-in sat next to each other. She was still looking at her phone, while he appeared shy as if meeting a girl for the first time. Neither spoke at first, as if waiting for the other to speak first. Yeo Un's gaze was fixed on Hae-in sitting beside him, thinking to himself, every time the train shakes, my shoulder touches hers. He secretly looked at Hae-in and whispered in his heart, just a small touch, yet my heart races. I'm not a middle school kid going through puberty anymore. It must be because it's been a long time since I drank with someone. While he was confused inside, Hae-in suddenly asked him, Yeo Un, where do you live? He was startled and awkwardly replied, Near Namdong Station. Let's drink there. Hae-in gave her suggestion, making him more and more flustered, and he blurted out, After drinking, you have to go home, right? What about you, Hae-in? How will you get home after drinking? Hae-in's eyes looked very charming at that moment. She leaned her hand on the train wall and replied, I'll call a taxi. It's no big deal. I'm an adult now. Hearing that, Yoon just nodded in agreement. Then he scratched his head and said, I'll pay for the taxi later. Seeing his embarrassment, Hae-in laughed and said, It's okay. After all, you're paying for everything. But suddenly she smiled and added a condition. But if I get too drunk, you have to take care of me. Those words made him curious, and he couldn't help but ask again. Take care of you? Then Hye In moved closer to him, waving her hand to signal him to lean in, and whispered secretly, if I get drunk, I'll sleep there. Hearing that, it was like a thunderclap in Run's ear. He suddenly startled and shouted, what? But Hye In wasn't surprised. She just looked at every little detail of him and smiled. Then she joked, just kidding. At that moment, the train station's operator announced, passengers for the next station, please open the left door. It was already dark outside. The street lamps were lit, illuminating the whole neighborhood. The two of them had arrived at the station and took the elevator to the surface. Outside, Hye In turned and asked, you look very familiar. Is this the area where you live, Yeo Un? He replied, yes, it's a 5-minute walk from here to my apartment. Hye In brushed her hair back, revealing her oval face with a mysterious smile, and asked him, a studio apartment? Yoon immediately pointed ahead and said, then let's drink near the station. I know a draft beer place I've been to a few times. Hye In smiled and said, sounds good, I'll follow your lead. So the two of them went there, but when they arrived, the place had been closed for a week. Seeing that, he was stunned. Hye In stood behind him and asked, it's already closed? That feeling was really embarrassing. Yoon must have been thinking that, but then he turned back to fix the situation by scratching his head and smiling awkwardly. Sorry, I haven't been here for a while, so I didn't know it was closed. Seeing his embarrassed look, Hye In couldn't help but burst out laughing. No need to apologize, it's not your fault. Then he picked up his phone. I'll find another place quickly, he said as he searched, thinking, oh my god, what do I do now? Lately, I haven't been drinking much, so I don't know any good places around here. That was his thought. But since he's with a pretty girl, he still had to try hard to find one no matter what. Looking at his face while searching on the phone showed he was very tense. Maybe this was his first time. But after finding a few bars, he hesitated, thinking, what if we pick a random place and the atmosphere isn't right? I really don't want to ruin this short drinking time. Why is the internet so slow right now? While Yoon was fumbling with her phone, Hye In stood watching his confused face for a moment. After a while, she suggested, I have an idea. She had made her decision. It's late now and there aren't any good places nearby. So the only place where we can drink and feel comfortable is your house. What do you think? She said, looking at him with such adoration that anyone who saw would melt at her charming beauty. He said that surprised Yoon, who replied, ah, your house is in one of the 3 high-rise apartment buildings. In the quiet space of the late night with dim city lights, suddenly Hye In exclaimed, no way. At this moment, the two of them had arrived at Yeo Un's house. She was carrying her bag and taking off her shoes, but her eyes were fixed on the apartment where he lived. Seeing his room, Hye In couldn't help but be surprised and said, the house is really clean, even though it's a studio. Standing behind him, carrying the bag to help, Hye In thought, this is my studio. He recalled earlier and silently thought, luckily, I cleaned up last week, otherwise she would have seen the mess. But suddenly Hye In stopped and asked, hey, I have a question for you, Yeo Un. Do you have a girlfriend? His question made him curious, and he scratched his head, asking back, why do you ask that? She then sat down on the floor, leaning against the sofa, saying, I'm afraid if I don't ask first, it might cause a misunderstanding, like I'm some crazy girl who just barges into a guy's house who already has a girlfriend. Then she asked again with a curious look, as if waiting for his answer. So you really don't have one, right? I don't want to be misunderstood as the third party. At this point, Yoon seriously replied, I'm not lying, I really don't, I'm single. Hye In opened a can of beer and laughed. Well, that's good. Now I can drink with peace of mind, right? Yoon sat down and took off his jacket. He also asked, so I can drink freely too, right? You, Hye In, you're not dating anyone either, right? Hye In answered his question very calmly. I have a boyfriend already. His name is Liam. A foreigner, very sharp in conversation. He sings well and fights well too. She briefly introduced the person she considered her boyfriend, making Yeo Un a bit disappointed. He was surprised and stunned, replying, then it's not wrong for us to drink alone like this. Seeing his innocent face, Hye In found it funny and couldn't hold back, laughing out loud and saying, I'm just kidding. This made him confused about what was happening. Hye In then raised her beer can and continued, he's the lead singer of the band Oasis. I thought you, Yoon, loved music a lot, so you'd get this joke. Hearing that, he was surprised and shouted loudly in frustration, how am I supposed to know that? Meanwhile, the girl next to him couldn't stop laughing and said, sorry. Yao then opened a can of beer and softly said, you scared me. I was worried I might accidentally hurt someone. Hearing him say that, Hye In felt a little warm inside. She looked at him affectionately, her face blushing. Then she raised her beer can and said, let's cheers. Tonight, no one will get hurt. Yoon also raised his beer can to clink with hers, but he still felt doubtful and asked again, you really don't have a boyfriend, right? When the 2 beer cans touched, she honestly replied, really, I don't. In a moment, the 3 cans of beer seemed to be finished. Unlike before, when the beer was in him, his attitude completely changed. He no longer looked embarrassed or shy. Instead, he talked a lot, to an unimaginable extent. Left hand holding a half-drunk beer can, right hand holding the phone and raising the photo on it, excitedly shouting, I swear this is a hint. He kept pointing at the photo and said the person in the photo Kim posted on Insta did drop exactly 4 items. Clearly, this is a hint for Long Afternoon's new song, which will be released in April. Haein looked at him with a confused gaze while Yu was very pleased, continuously pointing and continuing to say one of the dropped items was a ukulele, meaning the next song could be played with a ukulele or an acoustic guitar. Haein looked uncomfortable and quickly turned away, saying that's true. But then she wondered what he was thinking. I didn't mean anything deep in that photo, but his emotions seemed to overflow. He showed signs of being moved to tears and said, I was so happy when I found this hint. Just thinking about the song releasing in April made me unable to sit still. He suddenly pointed at her and shouted, You Haein are excited too, right? Haein saw his reaction and was startled, stammering, Huh? Yeah, of course. I'm really looking forward to it. But moments later, her eyes looked very thoughtful. She thought she had finished recording the song but hadn't planned to release it in April. Now, should she quickly sign a distribution contract? But then Alun spoke up asking her, But do you know anything? His eyes were vague. Haein's voice sounded very much like Long Afternoon's, slightly hoarse with a thin, bone-like layer surrounding it, and a gentle tone just like that, striking Haein's heart. She could only turn her face away. Still holding the beer can pretending to drink, he smiled slyly and said, Of course, Long Afternoon's voice is still fresher. Long Afternoon is still the best. That sentence felt like a bucket of cold water poured on her head, making her a bit annoyed. But then she asked him back with a not-so-happy expression, Do you really like Long Afternoon? I didn't expect you to talk about Long Afternoon all night while drinking. Hearing this, he looked at her expression and scratched his head awkwardly, asking, am I boring you? Haein calmly replied, No, I like it a lot, better than letting strange feelings invade, then becoming too serious. In this small, simple, but fully equipped room, in the quiet night, only the voices of 2 people, one male, one female, made the atmosphere more lively than ever. EU said, I'm not serious when drinking. Hae laughed out loud, Me too. Suddenly, Haein sat up, her shirt slipping down her arm, revealing a hot figure, but she didn't care, and calmly said, Feel free to continue talking. But with such a sexy figure, Ellen was a bit moved. He stared at her dumbfounded, speechless. Haein lay down on the bed seductively and said, I'll lie down and listen to you tell the story, okay? He looked at her and said, That's not okay. Lying down like that you'll fall asleep, just like in the asthma video. She spoke up, So can I do that? Making him freeze and look at her. Haein lay down, smiled at him, and continued, I'll listen to you then sleep again. Can I sleep at your place, Elun? That sentence surprised him greatly. He looked at her speechless. The 2 of them, male and female, looked at each other, in this quiet space. Yeo Un quietly said, Is that so? Still, those captivating eyes. Haein continued asking, Can I stay or not? Yeo Un looked at her shyly and asked, Hey, are you joking with me? Don't tease me like that anymore. But in a moment, Haein moved close to her face, making Yeo Un blush. She smiled softly and continued, Whether joking or serious, it depends on you. EU, still that charming style. She continued, If the host tells you to go, that's a joke. But if he tells you to stay, that's serious. So what should I do, joke or serious? That question made Ellendor's face blank, not knowing how to answer. What now? He was silent for a while, surely very conflicted in his thoughts, currently recalling the events that happened before with Haein, and also remembering her previous words. Anyway, I will stay. After thinking it through, he took a sip of beer, looked at her and said, Anyway, tomorrow is a day off. There are still many things left unsaid. Hearing that, Haein smiled brightly and replied, Okay. And right after, Haein did something no one expected. She unbuttoned her pants while saying that, which surprised Elun greatly, to the point he spat out all the barley smoothie he was drinking. Embarrassed, he loudly asked, What are you doing? Why are you suddenly taking off your pants? Seeing his awkwardness, Haein just smiled slightly and replied, I'm just unbuttoning the pants, that's all. The skirt was just taken off, making her exude an indescribable seductive beauty, she explained. Because I only drank beer, my stomach is already full, so I took it off to be comfortable. But Ayeun still couldn't hide her embarrassment. Blushing, he looked at her and then asked if she wanted to change clothes. Hearing that, Haeun happily replied, Really? That's great. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned to find clothes for Haeun. He continued, I have a new sports outfit just washed. It might be a bit loose, but it will be comfortable to wear. Sitting behind, Haeun continued to drink beer casually. Then she shook her beer can and said, It's all gone. After getting her clothes, Yeo Un asked, All the beer is gone? Haeun replied, Yeah, I finished the last can. With a beautiful woman beside him, Yeo Un had to act gallantly. He looked at her for a moment and said, I'll go buy more, okay? Do you want to drink more? Although Haeun was slightly drunk, she still held the beer can in her hand and smiled, saying, Yes, of course. Soon after, Yeo Un put on his jacket and said, Then you change clothes. The convenience store is nearby. I'm going now and we'll be back soon. Holding the clothes Yeo Un gave her, she happily agreed. Okay. Meanwhile, he turned back and asked Hae, Do you need anything? Like a toothbrush, for example? I can buy it for you. Hae replied, No, it's okay. I already have everything in my bag. Then she conveniently asked him, But can you buy me one thing? Haeun looked a bit shy. I just remembered my period is coming soon, and I didn't bring anything, so I need that. Any kind is fine. I'll pay you back later. That sentence made Yeo Un freeze for 5 seconds, but then he still agreed. Very quickly, he arrived at the convenience store near his house, holding a shopping basket. Yeo Un thought for a moment. After choosing, he took out a pink package and wondered, that must be sanitary pads, right? I've never bought this before. I don't know which type or brand to choose. I'll just pick any kind. Is that okay? But turning back to ask seemed awkward. While hesitating, he suddenly saw something on the shelf. It was a red box with a heart shape in the middle. Suddenly, Yeo Un felt stunned. Wait, could that be what she meant by condoms? Feeling like he was thinking naughty thoughts, he slapped his own face and thought, no, what am I thinking? Am I crazy? But what he didn't realize was that inside, he was extremely stunned. In his heart, thinking that he wasn't thinking anything at the moment would be a lie. Yeo Un was both beautiful and kind. That's why he should take it slow and not rush to ruin everything. Yeo Un thought this and then bent down, took the box, and looked at it for a while. He then remembered June. I don't want to be rejected like last time, because I was too eager and showed all my feelings. Yeo Un recalled the image of himself with Yeo Un on the subway. Just being able to see Yeo Un a little on the last train was already very happy. His eyes were a bit dreamy, holding the box and thinking further. Of course, if tonight Yeo Un takes the initiative, then I have no reason to refuse. Thinking of this, his body suddenly heated up. Damn, just thinking about it makes me unable to stand up. Then in front of the shelf, he bent down and whispered. At the apartment complex where Yeo Un lived, it must be very late now as he walked to the balcony where apartments were next to each other. After returning to his apartment, Yeo Un opened the door with the bag in his hand and excitedly said, Yeo Un, I'm home. After stepping inside, the space suddenly became unusually quiet. He suddenly said, huh? Yeo Un? Yeo Un looked towards his bed and was silent for a moment before realizing Yeo Un was sleeping on his bed, still holding her phone. She looked very peaceful asleep. Seeing her like that, he wondered if she was asleep. Standing in front of the bed, Yeo Un scratched his head, thinking that she had said recently something was bothering her. Maybe she had relaxed more and fallen asleep. Thinking this with his eyes still on her, he suddenly sighed. Then Yeo Un moved closer and called, Yeo Un, sit up a bit. Meanwhile, Yeo Un half opened one eye in a daze. Today, Yeo Un continued, let me cover you with the blanket. Sleeping like this, you might catch a cold. Suddenly, Yeo Un pulled Yeo Un close to her face. In this situation, Yeo Un panicked, saying, wait, what's this? He stammered, his hands tightly gripping the edge of the mattress, not letting go. In this situation, Yeo Un panicked and said, wait a minute, what's going on? Wait a bit, he stammered, his hand also tightly gripping the GA cushion without letting go. Suddenly, Hayes smiled and said, so handsome, exactly my type. He heard that and was very stunned. His face now flushed red. Then she closed her eyes again and said, so cool. Oh, at this moment also felt itchy, thinking, was that nonsense just now? After massaging Hayes' legs, Jan started taking off his jacket. You think I almost fell on top of you, Hayan. Then those long fingers touched my neck so soft. The image just now vividly present deep in my mind, the warm breath blowing on my face almost made my reason collapse, even though I tried hard to overcome this drunkenness. Then he got on the sofa chair and used the jacket as a blanket. His eyes seemed to look through the night with a vague expression. If Hayan really hugged me then, I wouldn't have been sober enough to push away. Even though we both were drunk, it didn't stop the emotions from being swept away in that small room. Hayan was still sleeping soundly on the bed while Elun was restless and couldn't sleep. Soon it was morning the next day in the city. The sun had risen, shining directly on the tall, massive buildings. Elon also woke up and sat up. He held his head thinking, oh, my neck hurts so much. No wonder I slept on the floor. Then he glanced toward his bed, where Hayan slept last night. Hayan, where is she? Then he propped himself on the chair, wondering if she went to the bathroom. But when Un looked down, he was very surprised. It turned out that In left him a letter before leaving, instructing him. It said she had gone, and after reading the letter, he looked around, then laughed to himself. She even cleaned up the pile of beer I bought before leaving. Just left it there. It's fine. She even took out the trash. But when he saw the condom box on the floor, he was stunned. Staring at that box, he wondered why that was there, holding the box and feeling scared. Did I really buy this yesterday? Recalling the scene at the convenience store last night, he thought he probably didn't need it. Today, he just planned to drink and talk. With Hay in, there was no such atmosphere. But what if the beer made him lose control and brought everything into the cart and to the checkout? What if something happened? I have to prepare for that situation. His face flushed red, showing he drank a lot, and immediately after, Island hurriedly dropped the box to the floor, feeling regretful and confused. He held his head with a worried face, wondering if Hae-in had definitely seen this. She must have been shocked, probably thinking I'm a pervert. He kept repeating to himself that he only seduced her for one night. Then he hugged his head tightly and shouted, "She must think that, but since it happened, let it pass." He started to go out, leaving an empty room at the familiar subway station. At this time, he just finished his part-time shift, but looking at his eyes showed he was very embarrassed, still remembering last night. In front of him now was Hae-in, still sitting there as usual. Yeo Un saw that and stammered, greeting her. She looked at him for a moment, then smiled. Seeing him embarrassed, she greeted back, "I think we need to talk." His face was shy, not daring to look straight at her, bowing his head, hiding his flushed face. What should I do? What should I say now? Or should I make up some excuse to get through this? He sat imagining the scene. "I'm happily talking with Yeo Un. Oh, Yeo Un. Actually, that's for a school assignment. I need it to write a marketing report about those products." Yoon forced a smile. "Actually, I bought it as a lucky charm. Someone said carrying it would bring luck in exams." Seeing how unreasonable his words were, he shouted, "No, no, no. Actually, I bought it by mistake, thinking it was vitamins." Just imagining that made his face darken. He ruffled his hair. Too ridiculous. Lying like that was pathetic and petty. It's better to be honest with his thoughts, even if he got scolded. Just as I turned to Yeo Un to talk about it, she interrupted me. "Wait, can I say something first?" I was a bit confused. Sure, go ahead." Yeo Un lowered her head shyly. "It's nothing serious. Just one thing I want to say first. From now on, I plan to keep my distance from you." Island was surprised hearing that. His face darkened. "Why?" Yeo Un propped her chin and closed her eyes. "I realize that when I'm with you, I don't feel tense anymore. Especially last time when I knew you were drunk. But the image of me as a child holding a guitar surrounded by brothers happily laughing came back. Maybe because when I was young, I often played with my uncle's musician friends. We talked about music. At this moment, Yeo Un tilted her head to look at Yeo Un. So I casually joked with him without thinking much. She fiddled with her hair and eventually crossed the line without realizing it. "So for now, I think I should create some distance." He listened and pondered. Yeo Un's voice echoed, because he patted his chest a few times. "The condoms I bought." At that moment, Hain was also stunned. She laughed. "Oh, so he still cared about that. Ha ha." Hain leaned back comfortably in the chair and spoke. At that moment, I was a bit embarrassed, but I didn't feel uncomfortable at all. With that atmosphere, it was understandable. After all, we're grown-ups and know everything well. She glanced at Alun teasingly. Although I didn't expect him to think about a one-night stand, he was stunned hearing that. Ilun awkwardly explained, "I'm sorry, but I really didn't invite you to drink with that intention." Haha, she was a bit pensive. Anyway, when I talked about crossing the line, it wasn't because of that. Everything that happened that day wasn't a big deal. Ayan wondered, then what was it really about? She lowered her head. Because of Hain's lips softly moving as she looked up. Her cheeks were as red as a tomato. I was really too much. Eun still didn't understand what I meant by too much. Hain bowed her head, thinking carefully about what I did that night. Then she recounted, going into someone's house without notice just to drink, borrowing clothes without any embarrassment, taking over the bed and making the host lie on the sofa. Every action was not just shameless but outrageous. He was stunned. Hearing this, Ellen scratched his cheek. "Ah, are you really talking about those things?" Haha. Hain covered her mouth, her cheeks burning like fire. When drunk, I was too excited to realize. But in the morning, I really felt guilty, so I left without saying a word. Sorry for that. Seeing Haeun's dazed expression was really surprising. Haeun is always cool and confident, as if she doesn't care what others think. But now seeing her regretful, shy and apologetic like this. But Yoon thought deeply. It really surprised me. Maybe that's why he muttered softly. I see this side of her through Eun's eyes. Hein's flushed cheeks looked very cute. He turned his face away. Yeo Un tried to hold back laughter. She looked at him suspiciously. Hain spoke. Anyway, I still want to keep my distance from him because of those thoughtless actions. If we get close, I might do something excessive again. She spoke seriously in a low voice. Maybe I won't come to this station for a while. Then Yeo Un turned around. He couldn't help but shout loudly. No. Both faced each other. The distance suddenly shortened unexpectedly. Hain wondered why not. Yeo Un blushed. A moment later, he was awkward with his hands and feet. Haven't you forgotten? The Long Afternoon group is releasing a new song soon, Ayan said seriously, exaggerating a bit. I want to discuss that especially with you. Hain's eyes lit up hearing that, but then she turned away. But if I stay close to him like this, I might do something foolish again. He saw my drinking limit. She lowered her head, blaming herself. I could do worse, Yeo Un firmly said. It's okay. He put his hand on his chest. I can tolerate all the rude actions you saw. Eon seemed to want to pour out his heart. To Hain, even her mischievous jokes and crazy antics when drunk. I can accept all that. So he humbled himself and begged, please don't leave me. Please never. Hain was stunned by those words. The announcement voice rang. The next train was coming soon. She lowered her face, but her lips smiled. Hain propped her chin. So next time I'll choose the snacks, right? She smiled brightly. When I come to your house again, we'll drink together again, right? Then I'll choose the snacks. He was happy hearing that. Sure, great. Hain smiled with eyes curved. She stood up and said, then keep the snacks you bought last time carefully. Who knows? We might need them soon. Yoon was confused about what he bought last time. He recalled the small box with a heart shape. Could it be? Hain glanced at his expression. She reminded. Of course it's beer. Yoon understood with a sound. After a while, they separated in the deserted hallway with no one around. Hain returned to her room and took off her shoes as usual. She took off her coat and shoes. Then Hain walked to the bed while tying up her hair. Her head was spinning because of the guy she met. Luckily, he wasn't angry at all. She was worried he would hate her. At that time, not knowing what to do, Hain was thoughtful. She recalled the scene. Yeo Un firmly placed his hand on his chest. Even though Yeo Un had accepted and forgiven her clumsiness, memories flooded back when she boldly pulled him closer to her and teased Hain by covering her mouth. And her cheeks flushed red as she recalled those images. She thought to herself, those embarrassing memories never really disappear. Hain jumped onto the bed and buried her face in the pillow. Why did I behave like that? She shouted. Surely she looked just like a perverted weirdo. Hain hesitated. If I hadn't fallen asleep that day, maybe. Thinking of that, a scene appeared in her mind. Love and intimacy between them. Unable to hold back her curiosity, she blurted out that the two of them had crossed the line. Hain froze, then she squirmed awkwardly all over. Then Hain sat up abruptly. What am I thinking, you idiot? She grabbed her phone intending to leave the bed, had to wash her face and focus on composing. I just came up with a music segment in the studio. Now I have to continue. Hain softly hummed, looking at her phone, puzzled by the message. Hain logged into the wall. What is this? Is this a real account? She stared at the messages just sent, unable to help but wonder. Could it really be Sung Hyun-ji? It started with a room full of musical instruments where music was lively. The sound of music rose like waves, sweeping every breath. Hain was lost in the guitar, her fingers gliding lightly but firmly. The strings sang long notes as if telling a secret story. When the last note fell, she paused for a moment, tired, exhaling deeply, sweat soaking her temples, but her eyes still shone brightly. Yet behind that light, there were endless doubts. The CEO Hyun-ji's message from yesterday haunted her mind. What should I do? Combined with CEO Hyun-ji's style, it would probably be interesting. Before she could find an answer, a knock sounded at the door. Yes, come in, she replied softly, but with a hint of grace. The door opened and Hyun-sung appeared with a kind face and a relaxed smile. Hain still practicing? He wiped the instrument and smiled lightly. No, I'm almost done. Uncle, did you come to see me about something? He cheerfully brought out an unexpected invitation, planning to order dinner. What do you think if we call tteokbokki spicy hell? The words made Hain blush slightly, initially shy. Are you eating spicy tonight? At first, I didn't plan to, but then, she laughed and made her usual gesture. I agree 100%. A moment later, the table was full of steaming hot dishes. The aroma rose thickly, spicy, mixed with a characteristic sweetness. Hyun-sung enjoyed it, nodding with satisfaction. Delicious. Tteokbokki is definitely the perfect dish when stressed. He cheerfully urged her, niece, eat quickly, or it'll get cold. But Hain only picked up one piece of rice cake and stopped. Her eyes seemed distant. What should I do? Staying silent would be rude. I have to decide quickly. Seeing this, Hyun-sung joked, what, is it too bland? Or should I call the super hell flavor? At that moment, she hesitated and tried a bite. No, it's not real. Actually, yesterday, in his band's shop, after hearing everything and when the story broke out, Hyun-sung was stunned, then shouted loudly, Mr. Hyun, you suggest she cooperate? That's a great opportunity. But Hain bowed her head, speaking softly. I know, it's just a bit sudden, so I hesitated. He was surprised. Hesitation? He made an unreasonable request? She quickly explained, no, it's not like that. He's a successful musician. But if we cooperate, sooner or later I'll be noticed. Hearing that, Hyun-sung suddenly realized, ah, you're afraid of being exposed, right? She just nodded in confirmation. Yes, that's right. Her uncle's eyes darkened briefly, then smiled, let it go. Hyun-sung avoided her gaze, lost in thought. I want to shout, don't worry about nonsense like that, just pour your heart out. I want to say that so much. But I can't say that to Hain because he remembered her past wounds. He knew how much she had been hurt. He knew clearly those old scars still remained, and that they still smoldered in her heart even now. I don't even know if she still hurts, but I know it's still there. However, on the other hand, I hope she will overcome that pain and spread her wings wide, because in his eyes, Hain was a truly talented artist. At that moment, she was scrolling through her phone screen. Oh, that pedal effect I saw this morning is sold out. During the meal, mixed with conversation, he gently gave advice. You two should meet and talk. Sometimes face-to-face is better. I keep thinking, as someone who makes music too, maybe he understands your situation, and coming up with a suitable solution even without cooperation. This is also an opportunity to get closer. Hae-in was momentarily stunned, finding that suggestion reasonable, but then had to refuse because he was too enthusiastic, and if they met, she might even ask for an autograph, which could be used to promote Hae-in's studio. Feeling helpless but sincere, she firmly objected, saying that kind of advertising was false. The atmosphere slightly relaxed, and as night fell over the city, Hae-in returned home. Feeling heavy-hearted, she had spent the whole day just thinking about this. She should have been practicing guitar today, for a new song. Her uncertain steps took her past a street full of posters of famous singers. Looking at the beautiful girl in the picture made her suddenly think, but those celebrities, the stars she admired, how did they endure the judgments of others to keep living? How much courage did they need to overcome that pressure? If only she had that bold spirit, lost in thought. Yoon suddenly appeared with a strange prank, making Hae-in just sigh helplessly. What are you doing? Yeo Un laughed happily and exclaimed, Ah, Hae-in is here. Today's a special program, so I'm reviewing the interview guidelines. Hae-in looked at him confused. What was that just now? Yeo Un giggled and explained, I'm just practicing facial expressions, using a natural smile to make a good impression, and I'm even relaxing my facial muscles. Then Hae In curiously asked, can you show me that introduction sheet? Yeo Un cheerfully handed it to her. Sure, it's nothing special. Reading a few pages made Hae In both surprised and curious. Just one interview. Required so much preparation? Yeo Un scratched his head. There's even more, like self-introduction and creating a fitting story. These things seem simple but are quite troublesome, he said. Hae In pondered for a moment, then turned to him. Do you want to try something? What? Then she excitedly proposed a challenge. Talk without avoiding eye contact during the interview, which confused him. How can you do that here? Suddenly Hae In stood up and said, it's easy. I'll stand over there and ask any question. And you sit here and answer. Of course, if you avoid my gaze, you're out. Got it? This made Yeo Un a bit embarrassed, instinctively rubbing her head. You want to do that here? That's a bit embarrassing. But Hae In appeared calm. What's the big deal? There's no one else around. Yeah, that's true. Yeo Un took a shy posture facing Hae In. Then let's do it quickly. She smiled confidently. All right, let's start. The space was silent, with only two eyes locked on each other. Yeo Un suddenly became serious as he looked straight into her determined eyes. But Hae In didn't waver at all. Yeo Un blushed, thinking it had been a long time since he saw Hae In's serious face. Or rather, it was the first time seeing that expression, which must be Hae In's look when trying her best. At that moment, Hae In unconsciously imagined when he walked into the interview room, surely the world would face him with that serious face, having to give his all to move forward, in simple office clothes, hair neatly combed. Thinking of this, Hae In couldn't hide her delighted smile and raised the book to cover her mouth during the interview. Wearing a formal suit, hair neatly combed, she wanted to see him like that so much. The gaze lingered so long that Yeo Un blushed and had to speak first. Aren't you going to ask any questions? She was startled awake and blurted out a silly sentence. I was just thinking a bit. Okay, I'll ask. When was the last time you kissed someone? It stunned him. Then she snapped sharply, stood up and shouted, what company asks questions like that? It's private. Hae In was also displeased and pointed at him. Who knows? Maybe they ask unexpectedly. So what? You have to prepare several answers for that. This made Yoon even more flustered, but no one really asks like that. This isn't a drinking game. Hearing this, Hae In had no choice but to coldly snort. Humph, then you're out. Yeo Un immediately protested. This company's unfair. I'll report to the labor department. She continued to pout. Look, we have no future here. Making him even more frustrated. Forget it. I won't say anything more. Hae In suddenly laughed, and the tension dissipated. She bent down, took a small object from her pocket, and handed it to him. Take this. It's a lucky charm for interviews. Yeo Un also took it out of habit. What's that for? It's a guitar pick I always use when I play. If you bring it along, I definitely won't make a mistake because it contains all my training energy. Hold it tight and do well in the interview. Yeo Un stared intently at her guitar pick, mumbling, Hane's pick. Then Yeo Un held it firmly in her palm. Thank you. I'll bring it to the interview. Hae blushed and smiled softly, but still didn't forget to tease. By the way, when you're nervous, do your nostrils flare or flutter? Making Yeo Un startled. Really? Then she burst out laughing heartily. Yeah, just look in the mirror. Meanwhile, in another recording room, Gong Hyun-jae was still diligently working on his music mixing setup. He focused on making music, losing track of time until the phone rang, interrupting him. He picked it up and read the message. It seemed like he received good news because just looking at the phone made him smile quietly. His eyes lit up as if discovering something interesting. He murmured, I'll deal with it after the interview, thinking about wanting to meet in person. Is it expressed through the word interview? She really is a unique person. The person named Long Afternoon 89, at this moment, Hae had just arrived at the building where she was supposed to meet. She slowed down in front of the shiny glass door, reflecting her silhouette, still a bit nervous, wondering again. Is this the building where he and I are supposed to meet? Which floor is the studio on? The smell of coffee from a small shop in the lobby, mixed with the sound of the receptionist typing, made the atmosphere both familiar and strange. She was still looking around for the directory sign. Suddenly someone approached and asked, Excuse me, are you Long Afternoon? The calm voice made her startle and turn around. Seeing her confused, he immediately introduced himself. Hello, I'm Sung Hyun-jae. Was it difficult to find this place? His face was gentle, eyes showing interest, as if he had been waiting for this meeting for a long time. Hae, still cautious, replied, Not at all. Google Maps showed the way clearly, so it was easy to get here. Her voice was soft but kept a certain distance. Hearing that, Hyun-jae felt a bit relieved. Haha, that's good then. The alleys here all look the same, so I often get lost too, he said, scratching his head and laughing naturally, easing the tension. Suddenly, he became curious. By the way, did you come alone? Last time chatting via DM, I heard you have other members in your music group. Hae avoided the question by stepping aside and answering. Usually, I work and move around alone. The others only support during recording and mixing. Her tone was firm, but her eyes avoided contact, not wanting to say more. Hyun-jae understood immediately. Ah, like a one-person band. Then she quickly added, Yes, everyone is busy with their own work. The drummer is still studying. Hyun-jae found this interesting and smiled, saying, I see, so you're both a band and a solo artist. He nodded slightly as if noting something special, then started leading her. Follow me, please. Let's go inside and talk comfortably. His voice was friendly, but his step still carried the confidence of an experienced person. Suddenly, he remembered and turned back to ask, "By the way, what should I call you?" "Long afternoon is fine, right?" His mischievous eyes seemed to challenge her. Hain also revealed her identity. "My real name is Shin Hain. Just call me that if it makes you comfortable." Her voice was even showing little expression. After learning her name, Hyun Jae found it interesting and said, "Shin Hain, then I'll call you Hae." She responded coldly, "Up to you." Seeing that, he laughed heartily, his laughter echoing down the empty hallway, lightening the atmosphere. After they went upstairs, he turned back and said, "The company's meeting room is under renovation, so let's talk in my studio. Also, I need to play you a demo." Hae looked a bit confused, glancing around and asking, "The company? So this whole building belongs to you, Hyun Jae?" Her voice mixed surprise and doubt. He laughed loudly and explained, "Oh no, I just rent a few rooms here. I'm not famous enough to buy the whole building." His laughter echoed but carried a hint of modesty. Unexpectedly, Hyun Jae added thoughtfully, "But who knows, if the record label I'm building succeeds, maybe one day I'll buy this entire building." His steps were firm as if imagining that future. Hain looked around admiringly. "Oh, so you're opening your own record label? That's amazing." A rare spark of interest flashed in her eyes, which Hyun Jae only acknowledged with a quiet smile, not replying. He turned away, but in his heart thought her reaction seemed too indifferent. He thought changing the subject would make her interested. Could it be that she doesn't care about his record label, or is she confident enough to succeed on her own? After thinking, Hyunji found Hae-in even more interesting, impressed that she wasn't easily persuaded. Surprisingly, Hae-in was too sleepy and tired to react. She just wanted to finish quickly. Having stayed up all night yesterday to compose, she was too sleepy. Just meet quickly, then take the chance to rest a bit in the studio. Shin Hae-in was just tired at this moment when she arrived at his recording studio. Hyunji entered and asked if she wanted anything to drink. Coffee, cola, sugar-free, beer. "I have everything here." But Hae-in just wanted to get straight to the point. "No need for that. Actually, I want to get straight to the cooperation topic." Her eyes hardened. He heard and laughed, saying, "Ha, of course, that makes sense." Because both of us have taken time for this meeting, then Hyunji went to get the contract and handed it to Hae-in to look over. "Let's review the contract terms together. Feel free to ask anything you want to know." After receiving the contract, she carefully read each clause in the contract. Thoroughly, her fingers slowly glided over each line as if wanting to make sure nothing was missed. At that moment, Hae-in suddenly spoke up. "I have a question. If we cooperate, I have a personal issue to ask directly about my concern. Do I have to participate in live performances or promotional activities, meaning showing my face?" Hyunji smiled after hearing the question, then took off his hat and replied that it was completely up to Hae-in. She could continue being a hidden artist or join him in activities. His calm voice, as if he had prepared this answer long ago, he also had a question for her. "But there is one thing I want to say." Hyunji revealed what he had been hiding, the reason he wanted to cooperate with Long Afternoon. "It's not just because I think it will be commercially successful," he emphasized, "but because I truly want to introduce this talented artist to the world. That's the sincere admiration I bring." When approaching her, I hope she understands that. His voice was sincere, his eyes did not avoid hers. After hearing that, Hae-in was a bit stunned, speechless. Her heart skipped a strange beat. Then Hyunji came over and asked, "So, want to listen to the demo?" At this moment, Hae-in regained composure and answered, "Ah, yes." Hyunji went to his music station and played it for her. Meanwhile, she went to think about something. The previous answer was beyond Hae-in's expectations. If she had to perform live, she would refuse. But unexpectedly, he was so flexible. She sat down, somewhat suspicious about this. Was this a trick to sign the contract, or was he genuinely concerned about her? While she was thinking, he turned back and said, "All right, I'll play the music." When Hyunji pressed play, the melodious music with rhythm and beats danced together through every corner of the room. The sound echoed like waves crashing, making the walls vibrate. At this moment, Hae-in suddenly determinedly interrupted. "Wait, Hyunji, why do you look so flustered?" Hae-in directly asked, "Does this cooperation mean I only sing in one song that you have already completed?" Hyunji hesitated and confirmed. "Ah, yes, the song is not bad," she shouted. "The melody is great, but this is cooperation. It must include my style too." The sound echoed in the room like a direct blow to the opponent's heart. Hae-in did not accept it and boldly stepped forward, saying, "Step aside a bit." Hyunji was a bit startled and said, "Ah, all right." She sat down and tied her hair neatly, preparing for work with a serious look very different from before. As soon as Hae-in sat down, she asked, "I will delete all the..." Hyunji was a bit shocked seeing that. "Huh? Just mute them, no need to." Without compromise, she firmly said, "No, I have to delete all." Seeing her passion being erased, Hyunji was heartbroken and said, "Hae-in, don't care like that. You can't just hold on to those things." Hyunji was heartbroken and silently cried inside, thinking, "Not only the sound samples, but it took me 3 nights to find them." Hae-in reviewed these music arrangements seriously. Honestly, Hyunji's music was handled too perfectly, there was nothing left to fix. If I am not careful, it might become mediocre. She thought of her fans and made a firm decision. "But my fans don't just love the song, they also love my style. So once it's labeled Long Afternoon, I can't compromise on the style just thinking about it. Haein is burning with dreams as she plays the Hyun's guitar. Hyun's, seeing this, can't believe it. He watches her burn passionately and has some thoughts. I thought she was only influenced by Suga and post-drop. Didn't expect she could blend in this style as well. Watching each music mix appear, Hyunjae has some thoughts. Instead of giving up her uniqueness to compromise, she skillfully brings the whole song into someone else's world and clearly shows her personal mark. Thinking about this, Hyunji finds it more interesting and thinks it's really amazing. Long Afternoon, not Shin Hae-in. This person really is an artist worth exploring. Each melody played makes him feel like his thoughts are exploding. I can feel that we will create a wonderful song seeing her so passionate. Hyunjae suddenly walks over to call Hae-in. He suddenly leans close to her ear and asks, "Hae-in, do you want me to bring beer or not?" Hae-in hesitates, removes her earphones, then looks at the screen, and answers persistently, "Of course. And remember to write the lyrics for the first part too. Today I will finish the arrangement." Scene changes to the school library setting. Yeo Un is diligently doing homework. Suddenly he stops with a headache, wondering if he can finish the essay like this. Seeing his argument isn't very strong, probably will lose points. After thinking for a while, Yeo Un gets frustrated, packs up and leaves. Forget it, let's rest a bit. He goes out to the lobby to rest, stretches after a period of hard work. Yeo Un just starts moving and thinks, mid-April is the end of midterms, so he can breathe a little. I should prepare some aptitude tests, then check out some job fairs. Thinking this, he finishes warming up but sits down blushing, remembering. Also, I want to go drink with Hae-in but don't have a clear plan yet. So Yeo Un is still hesitant. Of course, it also depends if the schedules clash. Right then, a notification sound makes him startled. He takes out his phone to check. Why isn't it on silent mode? If it rings in the library, it'll be a disaster. But Yeo Un looks at the notification and is a bit surprised and confused, says, scene changes to the subway where Hae is working hard. Even while going home, she attentively watches the collaboration clip to revise and perfect it. Suddenly someone calls her, Hae-un. Yeo Un runs over panting, making her startled. He blushes, breathing heavily, stammers, "Let's organize a music listening party." Hae-un sees the paper and is still a bit confused. Not understanding what's going on, she sees him hold up his paper and looks bewildered. A music listening party? Seeing that, but still not fully understanding, she tilts her head and asks, "What is a music listening party?" After hearing it, she feels like a flag is raised inside. Happily explains that it's a music party where everyone gathers to listen to new songs and share their feelings. Hearing this for the first time, Hae-in is quite surprised. "Really? I've never heard of it," he enthusiastically continues telling. "Back in high school, a friend invited me once, so I tried it. It was a music party where the singer also came." Recalling that happy moment, Yeo Un's face lights up after everyone listens to the new song together. The singer sings and shares their feelings and the whole process of writing the lyrics. It's really wonderful. Telling this, he doesn't forget to show the new paper on his phone. Continues to invite. "So let's have a music party too. Did you see Long Afternoon's post on Insta today?" Then Yeo Un enthusiastically invites, "Long Afternoon will release a new song on 4/28. Come to my place that day to gather and listen together." Hae looks at him excitedly inviting, but is speechless. She's a bit absent-minded and replies, "But if Long Afternoon isn't there, wouldn't it be meaningless? There must be an artist there to share about the song." Hearing that, she scratches her head. It sounds reasonable, but still tries to hold on. "Yeah, that's right. But it's okay, right? Like listening and drinking something." Hae-in sees him being vague and narrows her eyes, teasing, "The main purpose is to drink with me, huh?" That remark hits right in the black heart, making Yeo Un blush deeply. He quickly stands up, denying, "No, it's not like that. I'm really excited to wait for Long Afternoon's new song," but then he turns away shyly mumbling, "Though I can't deny I also want to drink, and this is a pretty good excuse." Hae-in sees his embarrassed look and smiles. Then she gently says, "All right, let me check the schedule that day." But when opening Ra's schedule, she suddenly freezes. Only now did Hae remember that night she had a schedule to record a collaboration song, but she awkwardly smiled and replied, "Probably the 28th won't work. I'll be recording late into the night in the studio." So Yeo felt a bit sad after hearing that. "You're shy to say it again? Oh well, then I guess it can't be helped." She immediately saw that disappointed look. Inside, she was flustered and wanted to pull back, trying to see if she could reschedule since there was still time. Seeing that, he quickly waved his hand, feeling awkward. "It's okay, don't stress too much. I only suggested it impulsively because I was excited." Hae looked at him awkwardly, feeling uneasy but thinking. Then her eyes accidentally caught that heavy-faced expression, a look no different from a puppy missing its walk. It made her unable to refuse, but the recording schedule had been painstakingly matched with 3 songs and couldn't be postponed anymore. So Hae lowered her voice, blushing, gently placing her hand and asking, "Then let's drink another day. No need for a reason to drink, right?" She smiled and enthusiastically invited, "As long as we want, we can drink." But Yeo felt a bit awkward, after the midterms. She leaned closer, her voice warm. "When we're both free, let's have a drink together." Being invited so straightforwardly made Yeo Un shy, but he still nodded in agreement. "Yeah, sounds good. We'll find another day that fits better." Just then the next train arrived and they both stepped on together. A few days later at school, the proctor loudly announced the exam time was over, and everyone quickly submitted their papers. Yeo leaned back, stretched tiredly, and sighed in relief. Finally done, he muttered to himself as he left the exam room. So the midterms are over. Just the group project next week, and then I'll be free. The exam was really tough. He thought he was doomed as he passed by a group of friends chatting excitedly. Suddenly someone called out, "Hey, finished the exam? We're planning a post-exam party. Want to join?" He hesitated briefly, then asked, "A party? I'd love to, but I have a recording tonight. Probably can't make it." The friend looked disappointed and begged, "Come on, just take one day off. The AI club is all going." But Yeo Un firmly refused. "I can't skip. I already took a day off last week. Have to go today." But inside he was excited with another thought. Feeling delighted because today was the release day of Long Afternoon's new song. Though a bit regretful, he was still eager, telling himself that even if he couldn't meet Hae In as planned, he would still enjoy the song alone, not wanting to miss this joy, saying goodbye to everyone. "Anyway, have fun everyone, I'm off," the friend reminded him. "Don't forget to stop by the club room." Yeo smiled and nodded, knowing. Then as he left, he looked like a fool, walking and smiling to himself. "Ha, the song comes out at 4 p.m., but I'll save it until I get home to fully enjoy it." The smile stayed on his lips so long that people at school turned to look, and even at work he couldn't hold it back. Working while smiling made his coworkers puzzled, not understanding what was going on. Even on the subway it was no different. He kept grinning, causing nearby passengers to cautiously avoid him. Walking home, his laughter burst out loud. Echoing down the street, when he opened his room door, Island excitedly shouted, "Ha, finally home." Then he quickly sat down, took a deep breath, pressed play, and settled in to listen properly, not knowing which masterpiece it would be this time, but suddenly his stomach growled loudly, making him pause. Worried? Wait. He had only eaten a little at work, and the boss even gave snacks, so thinking that, he decided to put the music aside. Frantically searching, maybe I should order some late-night food? Just got paid, might as well get fried chicken. After ordering, he leaned back, grinning contentedly. "Okay, tell them to leave it at the door. I'll take a quick shower." Yeo stepped into the shower, the water soothing his fatigue, but suddenly he stopped. Remembering Hae Un's face from before, he felt confused, suddenly covering his mouth in disbelief. Strange, everything's been good today, so why do I feel so lonely? That thought made him angry. He slammed his hand on the wall, gritting his teeth, asking himself why it was like this, right in the middle of his shower. The doorbell rang repeatedly, making him even more annoyed. Delivery already? Why keep ringing the bell non-stop? But the person outside persisted, ringing continuously, so he couldn't stand it and stepped out, hastily wrapping a towel around himself. "Hey, open the door a bit. What's going on? I clearly told you to leave it at the door." He opened the door but hadn't finished speaking when he suddenly froze, eyes wide, heart pounding wildly inside. Outside wasn't a delivery guy, but Hae was standing there silently looking in, while Ilt shouted in panic. "Why are you here?" She hesitated a bit, but then smiled and said she came to attend the music party. He was embarrassed and didn't know what to say. "Didn't you say you had plans? I thought you couldn't come." Hae happily showed the bag in her hand. "I wanted to join, so I managed to get everything ready. Here it is. I even brought drinks." Living abroad, I couldn't believe it. She even asked, "I hope I'm not late." After a while, he finally regained composure and stammered a reply. No, I just got back. Come in quickly." When Hae stepped inside, her eyes scanned around once. Then she laughed teasingly. "Oh, Yeo Un, usually at home, I don't even understand." Then she remembered. "Are you only wearing underwear?" The question made his face flush red, and he hurriedly ran away. "Wait a moment, let me put on clothes first." Hae turned away, smiling shyly, thinking he must have just finished showering. Meanwhile, Yeo Un hurriedly dressed properly, heart racing. "Oh my, what's going on here?" Hae came all the way to his house, but the place was messy and the trash hadn't been taken out. What would she think? Just as he was flustered, he heard her voice calling from the living room. Yeo Un was startled and answered loudly, "I'm here." She came closer, smiling, and asked to borrow something. "Can you lend me an outfit like last time?" Stepping right in front of him, Hae cheerfully added, "Before I drink, I want to take a shower first, okay?" Hearing that, Yeo Un blushed shyly, swallowing hard, heart pounding wildly. Then Hae entered the bathroom, turned on the water, and enjoyed relaxing after a long, tiring day, while Yeo Un took the chance to clean up everything. The messy living room, he picked up snack wrappers and gathered piles of clothes. Sitting on the chair, he suddenly stopped, blushing, thinking he really liked the idea of organizing music appreciation gatherings like this. Unexpectedly, Hae remembered his home address so clearly. He suddenly became lost in thought, recalling last time she left without a word. He thought maybe she would forget completely, or never come back again. But today, she stood at the door, even bringing wine. That means from now on, she will come like this after giving notice. The more he thought, the more delighted he smiled. Imagining that, he thought he must change. Every day, he must keep the house tidier, not let the room smell like fast food. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing. Maybe he should buy a diffuser to keep the house smelling fresh. Just as he was pondering, Hae's voice came from the bathroom. "Yeo Un." He was startled, turned his head. "Oh yes, what's up?" She reached out her hand outside the door. Her voice was both shy and comfortable, "There's no towel here, sorry, but can you bring me one?" Hearing this, he immediately panicked, running around the room mumbling and blushing. "Oh no, where's the towel? A clean towel, the cleanest one. I must find a brand new one." After rummaging through the closet, finally, he found one, hurriedly brought it back, turned his face away, and handed it to the door, saying, "Here you go." She took it, smiled gently, thanked him, then pulled the door closed. When the door shut completely, Yeo Un exhaled. His legs were trembling, but his face was still flushed. Why was he so nervous? It was just handing over a towel, as if confessing love. To avoid overthinking, Yeo Un took out his phone, opened his favorite music album. Sitting on the sofa, he tried to meditate to the music, calming himself down. Let the music guide him. Gradually, his heartbeat slowed. His mind settled too, amazing, as if he was about to realize something. But before he could fully relax, Hei stepped out. Her hair still slightly wet, cheeks pink from steam. She softly called, "Yeo Un." He quickly replied, "Yes," then turned around. But when he saw the scene before him, he was immediately shocked, speechless. Hei was wearing a loose, baggy outfit borrowed from him. She tugged the hem as if trying to hold it, eyes shining with a bit of shyness. "This outfit looks too big, doesn't it?" She moved slightly, then frowned. "Just a little shift and it might slip off. Don't you have a smaller size?" Yeo Un blushed so hard it seemed like he was about to smoke, unable to say a word, just sitting frozen as if someone pressed pause. Seeing this, Hei laughed teasingly. "I'll just respect your taste, so I'll wear it like this, okay?" He panicked and turned away, voice trembling. I don't have any other outfit." She raised an eyebrow, blushing and angry, pretending to be serious. "Don't lie." "Haha, give me another one quickly. Haha." Finally, after a flustered moment, Island found a better set and handed it to her. Hei Un changed and stepped out wearing a zipped-up jacket all the way to the collar, satisfied, saying, "This should be fine. Although a bit loose, once zipped up, it fits just right." After saying that, she giggled teasingly, but Jian's shoulders are really broad. The jacket looked baggy on him, astonishingly so. He could only force a smile, unsure how to respond, so he quickly tried to change the subject. "But why did you finish work so early today? I thought you'd have to work until late." Hei Un sat down by the table and chuckled softly. "Ah, that? It's actually a scene from the recording studio." Hei Un focused intensely, hitting high notes, putting effort into singing and feeling the music in every part. Each segment was completed quickly. After each take, she shouted loudly, "Save this recording first, then start the next one right away." Before anyone could rest, she requested a replay to adjust the original vocal part firmly. "I'll check the part just recorded, then record the original vocal separately for mixing. Replay from the start." The whole team looked at each other in surprise. Usually, she was perfectionist, recording repeatedly. Why was she working so fast today? Ji-hun frowned worriedly. Could it be she was just rushing because it wasn't her own song? But Ji-won smiled reassuringly. "Just wait for the final result. It'll be clear." Hyun-jae nodded. She's still maintaining her perfect form as always. Indeed, when Harin stepped out of the studio, the finished recording surprised the whole team. There was nothing to criticize. He laughed, giving a thumbs up. "Perfect. Well done." But just as everyone was about to invite her to celebrate, Harin hurriedly slung her bag over her shoulder, shaking her head. "I have something to do today. Let's celebrate later. I'll head home first." Saying that, she ran off, leaving the group stunned. Ji-hun was dumbfounded. Could she already have a boyfriend? Hyun-jae just quietly watched her leave. Back to the present, Yeo Un laughed after hearing that. "Aha, that's interesting." Meanwhile, Hei Un excitedly opened a bottle of whiskey. She gently shook the glass. "Anyway, we have to drink something before listening to Long Afternoon's new song." Looking at the bottle, Island was startled. "Huh? Isn't this an expensive whiskey?" But Hei Un just smiled comfortably. "You bought last time, so today it's my turn. It's really not that expensive, just a few tens of thousands." She raised her glass. "Then let's toast." Yeo Un nodded. "All right, I'm drinking this," and both clinked their glasses. The gentle clink echoed in the cozy space. He downed it in one gulp and slammed the glass down. "Whoa, that's strong." Hei Un's eyes widened. "What? You drank it all at once?" Elin was a bit embarrassed. "Is that okay?" She just shook her head and laughed. "It's just that I'm afraid I'll get drunk too fast." He frowned slightly. "Huh? Last time drinking whiskey didn't make me drunk this fast." Then Hei tilted her head. "Well, let's start listening to the music, right?" He suddenly remembered. "Ah, it's late already. Never mind." Each took out their phones, opened the new song Blue Smoke, and put on headphones. Ayeon raised her hand, signaling, "Ready?" Hei Un nodded. "Okay, let's start together," and both pressed play simultaneously. The whole room fell silent except for the music quietly weaving through everyone's hearts. Hei Un closed her eyes as familiar melodies played. It was the song she had heard hundreds of times while recording and editing, but now sitting quietly and listening with someone else, the feeling was completely different. All memories from placing each note, each lyric, each moment of self-doubt suddenly flooded back. She thought silently, just knowing someone out there was listening made her heart full. Then she slowly opened her eyes and glanced at Island, wondering how he was feeling. In her mind, she pictured Elon looking up excitedly, praising, "Amazing, Long Artnan is truly a genius." Or maybe he frowned and sighed, "I don't really understand this new song." Either way was fine. As long as he sincerely listened, that was enough. But when she turned to look again, Yeo Un was silent. eyes glistening with tears, which quietly rolled down. She was shocked and jumped up. What? No way. He's crying? Hye-in quickly took off her headphones and approached, softly calling, Yeo Un. He startled, hurriedly wiped his tears. Ah, yes. Sorry, the song's over, right? She looked at him softly. What were you thinking? Island shook his head, voice choked. Nothing, it's just this song is so beautiful. The lyrics really touched me. He explained slowly, each word coming from deep inside. Though trying to keep up with him, these feelings would always be invisible. You might endure it, but never truly reach it. It's always too far. But today, you're gradually becoming more like me. Hye-in sat quietly, holding her glass and sipping the wine. Not responding, just letting the emotions swell in her chest for a moment. Then Alun turned to her and asked, How do you feel? Caught off guard by the question, she was flustered. Oh, me? The guitar recording is very smooth. Haha. Hey, why are you so weak? Haha. Evaluating the professional skills of a fellow musician? Say a bit more in detail. She looked up, searching for words. As for the melody. But then her heart lightly raced for real. At first, when thinking about this joint music listening session, I thought it would be cheesy and awkward, but now I just want to drink to the fullest. She smiled and poured more wine, raising her glass with O. Their eyes met under the warm yellow light, with music still echoing somewhere. A team Hye-in suddenly felt her heartbeat race, blushing as she thought. My heart feels like it's about to explode. I just want to look at him a little longer on the table full of beer cans and paper boxes. Someone overly cheerful raised their cup and said loudly, Exactly, that's where everything began. Hye-in, slightly tipsy, smiled and said, When the Beatles arrived at New York Airport on the 7th of February 1964, it was an unprecedented chaotic scene. The airport so crowded it was almost paralyzed. And that was also the milestone, marking the beginning of what was called the British invasion back then. The Beatles had a huge fan base, just like idols today. When a reporter approached and said, Sing a song, Pedo, do you know how they responded? She squinted and pointed at Yeo Un, saying, Pay first, then both burst out laughing in their drunken stupor. He laughed until tears fell, saying, Oh my god, that's so funny. Hey Hye-in, you seem to really like the Beatles, huh? Even their history you know by heart. Hye-in put down her glass, curled up hugging her knees, and said, Thanks to them, the first pop band I heard as a kid was the Beatles. I usually only listen to new music, so when I heard old music, I had a culture shock. She picked up her cup again, smiling in her initial buzz. At first, the sound quality was poor, and I didn't understand the lyrics. I thought, what is this? I didn't want to listen anymore. But the more I listened, the more I found it good and captivating. She recalled when she was little watching music videos and continued, I never expected the voices of people who lived even before I was born. They could survive through music and touch me. That inspired me to start composing. I want my voice to still be heard hundreds of years from now, even if by then, aliens invade Earth. Eon looked amazed at the girl, laughing heartily and said, Aliens? She replied, Yes, aliens will destroy Earth. Eon laughed jokingly. What are you talking about? Is this a prophecy? Hye-un teased him and said, It's true, because I am their ancestor, then burst out laughing. He raised his glass to drink, laughing. You're really full of tricks, Hye-un. You're definitely a true weirdo. Hye-un teased him. Eul, want a beating? Eul replied, No, mercy. Their conversation never ran out of laughter. Suddenly remembering something, he asked her, Hey Hye-in, do you have any songs you composed? I really want to hear your music. Hye-in absent-mindedly fiddled with a button on her hand and said, My music? Ah. Actually, her eyes glazed with drunkenness became alluring, but her back suddenly looked sad as she answered softly, I still don't have any songs yet. Nothing has come out exactly as I want. Eon raised his beer glass to drink to hide his embarrassment. He replied, Ah, that's a shame. I feel your music will definitely be great. Hye-in laughed cheerfully, still holding the bottle of wine. In return, I'll make you a special golden ratio whiskey cocktail, Shin style. Seeing that, he quickly waved his hand to refuse. No, don't make me drink another bomb. Eon, already tipsy, scratched his head wildly and kept saying, Tonight I drank too much already. Long Afternoon song is really great, and talking with you is fun too. Her eyes red from drinking looked at him. Are you sleepy already? Eon's dreamy eyes rubbed his eyes and replied, a little. I stayed up late studying last night. Though drinking, Hye-in glanced meaningfully at him, then suddenly rested her head on Yeo Un's lap, surprising him. Yeo Un carefully leaned back on the sofa and asked, What are you doing? Your face is red from the alcohol. She smiled, looking at the phone in front of her. What are you doing? Her face flushed red from the alcohol, smiling while looking at the phone in front of her. Just lying down to write a diary. There's an app called Letters to the Stars. The screen showed the interface of that app. Hye-in explained, You just need to write a few lines about your feelings of the day. A star will appear in the sky. It looks beautiful. Elun's affectionate eyes looked down at her and asked, So what will you write today? Hye-in put the phone under her chin and thought for a while, then answered, I will write that Yeo Un's thighs have the perfect softness and firmness. Very ideal for a pillow. Hearing that, Yeo Un burst out laughing. What the hell is that? You lying on my thigh? He continued. So I will hug it like a pillow, she said. Today, Eon laughed heartily, teasingly. Then I will hug you to sleep too. When he bent down to look at Hye-in, he caught her gaze full of thought, staring at him. She put the phone aside, her serious eyes looking at him. Are you serious? Not joking, right? Yeo Un was passionately gazing at Hae In his drunken state, then suddenly provocatively said, Are you scared? Scared that I'm telling the truth? Melly's eyes full of stars looked at Yeo Un and then chuckled. She boldly raised her hand to poke his cheek and replied, Not scared, but you're very drunk. Hae In smiled, sat up, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, and said, All right, how about one last drink, and then we go to sleep? I'm starting to feel sleepy too, Yeo Un replied irritably. But I'm not drunk, seriously saying those ambiguous things. I really want to hug you to sleep tonight. His eyes like a seductive fox, she allowed it. Hae In stood there like she was enchanted by Yeo Un. She didn't answer immediately, but asked him back, If I agree, will you have enough courage to hug me? Then she laughed comfortably, spreading both arms toward Eon. Come on, try hugging me. I won't dodge. As fast as lightning, Eon rushed to hug Hae In tightly. Both hugged each other and fell flat on the ground. Hae In's face flushed red in surprise. Her hands stiff, not daring to hug him, she called out, Yeo Un, closed her eyes tightly, gritted her teeth enduring. He said, I'm trying to hold back. I don't want to treat you casually, he said. She was stunned, because I don't want that. Hae In's eyes curved as if smiling, her eyes sparkling with happiness. Then she put her arms tightly around him intimately and said, All right, then I'll let you hug me. Tonight, let's hug each other to sleep. The two lay hugging each other on the floor for a while. After a long time, still no movement. Seeing that, Eon had already rolled over and fallen asleep, unaware of the stars. She turned to look at him helplessly, thinking, What is he thinking? Sleeping already while hugging me? Oh right, he said he was staying up late studying. Also, he just drank pure whiskey. Hae In stood up and struggled to carry Eon, who was sound asleep. Get up to the bed. Oh my. A bit of muscle showing. Many studio equipment around. Hae In gently placed him on the soft bed. She conveniently grabbed the wine glass on the table, took a few sips, her eyes never leaving him. Eon and Hae In sat on the edge of the bed, thinking, making her heart beat wildly. Then he slept soundly like that. How is that possible? Annoyed, she slapped his chest once while taking off the blue jacket, thinking, But since he said it's okay, maybe I can also sleep in his arms. The poor jacket was thrown onto the sofa chair, lying there lonely. Hae In quickly climbed onto the bed, hugged Alun from behind, holding him tightly, inhaling his scent. Blushing, thinking, his body wash scent is really pleasant, the fabric softener scent on his shirt, plus a little light smoke from the whiskey glass. Oh my god, I'm going crazy. The scent on his neck, I want to feel his real skin. Ellen, you really smell good. Hae In tightly grasped his shirt, inwardly thinking, but I still haven't told him that I am long afternoon. I still haven't shown him my true self. Yet now I quietly hide here, watching every reaction of his, and then just immerse myself in everything about him. Maybe the one who doesn't have enough courage to hug someone else is not Eon but myself. The alien hiding his true identity. Maybe I'm the coward, then burying my face into Eon's back and falling asleep. The next day, light shone into the room through the window frame. He squinted as the light hit his eyes and woke up. Eon groaned in pain, holding his head. My head hurts so much. How much beer did I drink last night? He put his hand on his head with dark eye circles. He thought, why am I lying in bed like this? I remember Hae talked about the Beatles. Then what? I can't remember anymore. Then he turned to hug and nuzzle the blanket beside him, thinking, let's just sleep a little longer. Maybe Hae is back already. Suddenly, he noticed something strange. Eon hugged the blanket in his hands, feeling and squeezing it, then said, What is this? Why is the blanket so stiff? His mischievous hand rubbed it randomly. His face looked silly and curious. Did I stuff something inside? But why is it so soft and smooth? From inside the blanket, Hae In's head appeared. It made him freeze in place. She just woke up, rubbed her eyes, and smiled at Yeo Un. You're awake? Made Yeo Un turn to stone right there. Scared to death, he startled and stepped back in horror, screaming, Ah! Startled, while Hae In looked charming in her new just woke up look, her face not too surprised, saying good morning, hoping he didn't feel cramped having her lie next to him. Yeo Un's face turned red, his eyes glued to her. What's going on? Did I really sleep in the same bed with Hae In last night? No way I didn't do anything weird, right? Seeing Yeo Un looking at her, Hae In smiled and replied, Good morning, Mr. Yeo Un. Hae In was sitting drying her hair, the strong wind making her hair fly wildly, while Ayan was peeling open a pack of noodles. His eyes stared fixedly at her, the pot of noodles boiling and fragrant, but his mind was in turmoil. Did I really sleep with Hae In last night, and on the same bed? Then imagining strange scenes gave him goosebumps. Don't tell me I did something weird while drunk, right? I didn't do anything strange, did I? Lost in thought, Hae In spoke up, startling him. Mr. Yeo Un? Yeo Un startled and replied, Yes? She continued, Do you have any plans today? Are you very busy? Yeo Un answered a bit shyly. No, today I'm just doing some extra work. The rest of the time I'll stay home to do homework. Hae In cupped her cheeks with both hands, smiling brightly. That's good then. You have time to rest. You looked very tired yesterday. Yoon finished cooking the noodles. Just as he was about to bring them out, she approached and said, I'll just eat some noodles then go. From 1 p.m. today, I start receiving guests. Although hearing that, he still handed the full bowl of noodles to her and asked, So, do you want to stay at my place until then? I don't mind if you stay longer. Haein happily took the steaming noodles and smiled in response. Why? You want me to stay and hang out a bit more? Yeon was carrying the noodles to the dining table, trembling and stammering. No, that's not it. It's just that I think you'll be tired if you go back and forth, and you have to come back near here later too. She picked up the noodles and ate. Why refuse? Anyway, I should go home and rest properly. I also need to change clothes. I'm not saying your place isn't comfortable. Your house is closer to the studio than mine. Yeon was chewing noodles while thinking vaguely. I guess my place really is closer to her work. So should I invite her to come over anytime? His gaze gradually shifted to Hae, and she was slowly eating noodles. His own thoughts made him embarrassed, so he took a big bite of noodles. No, what am I thinking? Why would Haein come here without a reason? I have nothing to offer. Ion's concentration returned when she called out, Hey Ion, Haein said, do you exercise? Ioun replied in surprise. Exercise? Yeah, then recalled the painful journey with various sports. He said awkwardly, sometimes on days off I do some exercises at home. Or morning jogging, for example. I used to join some sports clubs too. Haein covered her mouth and laughed, her voice rising as if she didn't believe it. Oh, I see. Just as I thought. Ion looked at her confused and asked, But why do you ask? She smiled and replied, It's just that your body seemed quite toned when I hugged you last night, then gracefully bent down to eat noodles. Haein continued, When you put on clothes, I thought your shoulders were really broad. Hearing that, he panicked and replied, Hug what? She continued. When you hugged me tightly, I felt your body was very firm, and your arms were very strong too. Ion widened his eyes and gasped, struggling to say, I hugged you twice. What? Haein laughed and replied, Don't you remember? Last night you suddenly pulled me close and hugged me tightly, saying something like, Do you know I was holding back a lot? Then laughed, covering her mouth. Hearing that, Elle was shocked, frozen in place, wanting to jump into the river to lessen his embarrassment. He trembled and said, You're joking, right? You must be teasing me. On the contrary, Haein was quite happy and replied, No, it's true. Don't you really remember? When you suddenly hugged me tightly, I thought I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. But then a charming corner of her face appeared as she continued telling, Then you fell asleep. So I just lay beside you and slept. Hearing that, Yeon's face turned as red as a monkey's butt, but he smiled and stammered, I'm sorry. I must have been too drunk. Haein stroked her short hair and replied, It's okay. I felt comfortable too. Yeon was holding his flushed face in surprise and asked, You felt comfortable? Haein smiled and replied, Yeah, it's been a long time. No one has ever hugged me with all their strength like that, so I realized one thing. A hug is very necessary for us humans. So don't worry too much about that. Then stood up carrying 2 empty bowls of noodles to wash Hae. In left a sentence and then left, Let me wash the bowls, okay? He sat there with a complicated but warm gaze watching her outside the residential area where Island lived. The elderly were jogging in the morning, while the young hurried to work. An old man was panting from exhaustion, suddenly noticed behind, and was amazed to see Island running at a fast pace. He passed by like a gust of wind. While Island's mind was in turmoil, thinking back, lately he had been studying all the time and barely exercising. His body must have weakened a lot. So this time it was for health and stamina, not to impress her. Desperately running on, he saw her charming figure as she tucked her hair this morning. Her face suddenly blushed, and closed his eyes tightly, thinking, Of course, if she liked Island. He stopped panting, sweat soaking his shirt. He thought his chest muscles were really weak now. That would be great. Then, like taking a power pill, full of energy, he bent down and stretched his legs loudly, saying, All right, I'll run one more lap, then go do upper body exercises. 1,000 push-ups to make up for lost time. At a place with a lot of brand new music equipment, Hae In was sitting at the checkout area, diligently writing and drawing something, humming a tune happily while writing. On the screen were cute cartoon characters, and in the middle was a mouse. She said this character looks a bit like Island. Should I secretly post it on Instagram? Then smiled, immersed in her own world when Ji-hun suddenly appeared, making Hae In jump. He was surprised to see her like that. So he asked, Why? Did you get so startled? Were you watching something dark? And Hae In gently raised her middle finger at Ji-hun, saying, You're the one who watches that. What's wrong with you? Suddenly he put one hand in his shirt pocket and slammed the other hand on the table, frowning, saying, What's with the sudden attitude? We have an appointment here at 3 o'clock. Hearing him say that, she suddenly remembered, Oh right, the appointment at Ido-it. Ji-hun said happily, his eyes sparkling. By the way, yesterday, we drank with Hyun-ji. Hae In smiled and responded, Really? After I left, did everyone continue? He arrogantly laughed and replied, Yeah, we stayed drinking at the skewer place until dawn. Hyun-ja paid. She glanced at him teasingly and said, Oh, that's good. Are you closer with Hyun-jae now? Ji-hun laughed loudly and replied, A bit closer. Hyun-jo even knows our group, Hae In exclaimed, leaning on the table. His expression seemed serious as he spoke again. Yeah, thinking back. Before leaving yesterday, we chatted a bit and Hyun-jae asked me to ask you about this. He asked if we agreed to shoot a live clip for the new collab song. Hae In put her pen down on her chin and asked, A live clip? Ji-hun began to explain, Simply, it's a live performance video, but edited with multiple camera angles and cut like a music video. While speaking, he made a gesture covering his face. If done like that, they can edit or stage it so your face won't show during the performance. So Hyunjae asked if we want to try. What do you think? If we do the concept well, it could be good. Hey, in thought, she started seriously considering this issue. Shooting a video? Yeah, everything is getting bigger. At first, I just wanted to participate in music production, but if I gather enough courage and create something, maybe I'll get to see the unique expressions only that person has, right? After a while of thinking, Haein spoke up. All right, I'll think about it. If my face isn't shown, I think I can do it. Above the towering buildings in Island City, he was walking slowly on the street with a gloomy face, massaging one arm. He thought, yeah, today I trained too hard, my body aches, really shouldn't cram all the training into one session like that. Then suddenly his thoughts wandered and he laughed. But today was really productive. I had breakfast with Haein, exercised for the first time in a long time, finished all the exercises and listened repeatedly to Long Afternoon's new song. Then Island entered a shop politely greeting. I'm here, miss, the owner, greeted by another staff member. He was a bit confused, thinking, oh, the owner isn't here? Maybe she went out to buy something. Then smiled and greeted back. Yes. Hello, ma'am. Island went into the staff-only room, changed into the store uniform, and went on summer shift duty. Ilun went outside and told Shin Yang, it's my turn to take over the shift now. Later, when the owner arrives, I'll inform her. I'm leaving first. She was still busy working, he continued. Today, the owner didn't work the evening shift. About an hour ago, she felt unwell and left early. Yeon worriedly asked if she was okay and where she was injured. Shin Yeon calmly replied that it seemed like she had a fever. She recalled the scene and explained that from the moment she started working, she was shivering from the cold, then had a high fever and had to go to the hospital. Yeon placed her hand behind her neck and said, oh, I see. That's really worrying. I'll call to check on her later, then continued talking with Shin Yang. So you can go home now. Working alone must be tough, she said, surprised. That's why I'll stay. Working alone is hard too, she smiled brightly. Wan Shin Yang, 23 years old, afternoon shift, currently on leave. She continued, so I'll help you tonight, just for today. Shin Wai happily brought 2 cups of water, loudly calling customers. Number 24, Moonlight Fairy Otter and Blueberry Otter, here you go. Otter is slang for soft drinks. With GA or fruit flavor, she continued bringing out 2 more drinks, happily handing them to the customers. Customer number 15, 2 Americanos with extra shots, here you go. Thank you, see you again. Unlike Shin, young Yeo Un stood in the corner worriedly making a phone call. The person on the other end quickly asked how he was doing. Hello, owner, how is she? Oh, she's lying in the hospital getting an IV, looking very pale, he replied. It's nothing serious, just overworked. I just went to the hospital for IV fluids. She's resting now. I think it's because last night she binge-watched shows and drank, so the fever got worse. Hearing this, he awkwardly smiled. She continued, but what about the shop? Can you manage alone? Or should I call someone to help? Eon replied, glancing outside. Well, he looked at Shin Yang busy making drinks outside. Eon continued, Shin Yang said she'd stay to help with the afternoon shift. Hearing this, Oh Yuju shouted in surprise. What? It's her? So she's working 2 shifts in a row? He nervously glanced around, then whispered into the phone, Yes, I told her it would be tiring, but she said it's okay since she's a student on summer break. She doesn't have much to do during the day, and as long as she gets paid extra, she doesn't mind. She sighed on the other end of the phone, silently thinking how tough that must be, then continued instructing Oh, all right, tell her to only work within her limits. You should also leave early today. After I finish some tests here, I'll stop by the shop. He politely replied, Yes, I understand. Please rest. Yeon hung up, exhaling deeply. Hearing that she was okay reassured him. Then he stepped outside to inform Shin Young. Shin Young happily responded, Yes, what did the owner say? Yeon clasped her hands at her side and replied, She said she'll pay extra, so you can continue working. But she also warned not to overexert yourself. Looking worried, she glanced down at Shin Young. Today will be tiring, but let's try to get through it together. The shop has been busy at night lately, and I can't handle it alone. Hearing this, she smiled proudly and flexed her arm, saying, Don't worry. I may look like this, but I do work out. I'm pretty strong. Yeon awkwardly brushed her hair behind her ear and smiled, Thanks. Silently thinking, at least she's very energetic. Working with someone like that probably won't be awkward. Then she pointed to the trash outside and said, All right, I'll take out the trash and then take a quick walk. She smiled and replied, Okay, I got it. All right. Sin Young suddenly spoke up to stop him. Wait, Yeon, the owner said you're a senior in university, right? So that means you're older than me, she smiled brightly, teasingly. Then don't use formal speech with me anymore. I'm 23. Yeon hesitated shyly. Okay, I'll watch the counter for a bit while you go do some work. She replied, Okay. Outside the shop, the sky was darkening. He carried 2 big trash bags. At the shop's trash area, he dusted his hands and thought deeply about how friendly she really was. Even though it was their first time working together, she already told him to drop the formalities. Ilun's eyes darkened and sharpened. I thought I used to be like that too. Not caring how long you've known someone, not thinking much about the time spent together, just approaching others without hesitation. But at some point, thinking about this, he sighed and said, Well, I'll go check around then. Thinking further, he started calculating the level of closeness and adjusting the distance. The shop lights turned on. Shin Eong looked panicked, holding a milk box and a cup, shouting for help. Elon Oppa, something happened. Eon was holding cleaning tools and froze. She was flustered and worried, saying, "There's an order for 15 drinks and sandwiches for delivery. Please help me." At this moment, even he panicked and anxiously asked for 15 sandwiches at this hour. Shin Eong replied with a mouthful while making drinks with his hands. "Yes, but each drink has its own special request. I'm about to go crazy." Seeing that, Yul spoke up to reassure him. "You handle the sandwiches. I'll make the simple drinks first," she replied. "Okay." He looked helplessly at the sandwich bag. Troublesome indeed, all orders coming in at the same time. Will the ingredients be enough? Why do these complicated orders always come at the worst possible time? Io glanced at Shin Yang. But luckily Shin Yang stayed. I was worried because she has only worked for 2 months, but it turns out her skills are quite solid. More importantly, she is reliable, especially in such a critical moment. Then the whipped cream dispenser broke down. She worriedly said the whipped cream dispenser is broken. Quickly, "What? Wait a moment, I'll fix it right away." The shop space was airy and clean. He stretched after the busy moments. So tired, today was really long. The shop was packed in the evening. Shin Yang in her casual clothes was preparing to leave. Aileen called out, "Oppa, I'm leaving first, really. I can stay to help close up," but Aileen politely said no need. "The boss said she doesn't want to pay for your taxi, so go home early," Shin Yang replied happily. "Oh really? But I live right next door. No need for a taxi," EU said, "but I still took the taxi money." She smiled and replied, "What's that about?" Then happily said goodbye, "See you tomorrow. You did well today." EU waved back. "Yeah, you too. Be careful going home." He watched Shin Yang leave leisurely with her bag, while Yao stood there reviewing today's revenue. Then it was time to clean up and check the revenue. "I still wonder how much we made." He stood there dazed, lost in thought, eyes vacant and focused. Remembering Hayne's drunken beer face, thinking about it reminded him, "How old is Hayne this year?" I never asked, nor did I know well enough to talk, but still curious. At the subway station, under bright lights, she sat cross-legged. Kyo DM rested her chin on her hand and said, "I'm 39 years old." Yao's eyes widened in shock. "Wait a minute." The atmosphere between the two fell into silence. He began thinking, his CPU probably running at full capacity. Finally, Yao convinced himself it was a joke. Hearing that, Hein shouted, pointing at him. Of course, I was lying. She stared at Yeo Un sadly and questioned him. "Do you really believe it? Do I really look 39? Why?" He scratched his head shyly and replied no. "If it were true, I'd just be more impressed by how young you look." Then he looked at her and asked, "So how old are you really?" "A secret?" Hein straightened up, exuding charisma, and said, "Not exactly. Why are you suddenly curious about my age? Do you think I'm an old lady hiding her age with makeup?" He flustered and replied, No, not at all." She leaned forward, lips slightly puckered, glanced at him and said, "So why do you want to know? Does it really matter?" He stared at her silently, then looked down awkwardly and said, "Yeah, it really doesn't matter. What's the point?" Hein sensed his mood drop a bit. He said, "I asked something weird." "Huh?" Hearing that, Hein felt a little embarrassed too. Not the reaction I expected. Did I speak too bluntly? I just meant to tease him a little. She leaned down and stopped her joke. "All right, I'll tell you, but on one condition. From now on, you still have to call me Hayne." Yeo unfroze in surprise. When he reacted, he was startled. "Ah, so that's why she wouldn't tell her age." "But isn't that strange?" She calmly replied. "Others might think so, but I like it. It makes me feel respected as an adult, but not too formal like with customers." Then she scratched her head with a look that said, "I understand." Then she said, "Oh, you like role-playing like that? No judgment here." She got angry. "No, that's not it. What I mean is, what role-playing?" Hayne raised her hand to cover her mouth and yawned, then said, "I just like it when you call me Hein. It sounds a bit cheesy, but I still like it." Her last words officially made Yao blush. His face looked like he was addicted but shy to admit it. "Okay then, I'll keep calling you that. It's not hard at all." Yao looked at Hayne with a teasing gaze and said, "So how old are you? Are we the same age?" Hayne wiped her nose with her hand and replied, "I'm 21. Yao still smiled, but the atmosphere around him froze. Jian, 25 already, shouted in shock. "No way, she's already working, but people usually graduate college at least at 22. "Why are you so young, Hayne?" Looking at my hand, I replied that I didn't go to college. "I started working as soon as I was old enough." Seeing his doubtful face, she added, "If you don't believe me, I can show you CC. CD is fine too, but I still try to bother myself. What about the fact that you said you're still a student?" She answered bluntly, "Even though I'm working, at my age I'm still a college student. So," Ian kept arguing, "You're still young but making professional whiskey bombs." Hayne gently replied, "I learned from my uncle." He exclaimed, "Oh my god!" Suddenly the ship's loudspeaker announcement sounded, "The next train is arriving soon." Hayne smiled, putting her arm around Elun's shoulder, saying, "No matter what, we promised, okay? The way we address each other cannot be changed from now on. Remember that. Elun Oppa." She deliberately prolonged the last word, surprising him. Meanwhile, Elun could only force a smile, thinking Hein spoke so maturely that he thought she was older or the same age as him. but it turned out she was a clever little fox. Elle looked at her like a fox plotting to trap him. At the shop where Yeo Un worked, it was still crowded. Tired, he rubbed his shoulder and said, "Working again after the holiday is really exhausting. Maybe I should go get a massage tomorrow before work." Yeo Un, carrying clean tools, stepped out and said, "Resting a bit more would be better." She replied, "A week off is enough. The longer you rest, the more money flies away." Hearing that, he frowned and disdainfully said, "Always thinking about money like that, you'll die young." Oh, Yudu waved his hand laughing, said, "Running out of money is scarier than dying." Yeo Un replied helplessly, "Well then, I give up." She kept laughing heartily, right? Oh, Yudu remembered Xinyang and asked, "By the way, how's Xinyang lately? Only been working for 2 months, right? But looks pretty good." Yeo Un recalled and replied, "Yes, she's active and handles customers skillfully," she answered. "Yeah, her personality is flawless." While Yoon was washing dishes, he had to turn back to look at Yudu smiling, but still a bit tired because he hadn't memorized all the recipes yet. She helplessly smiled and responded, "That's understandable, not enough experience yet. But anyway, having you here makes me feel secure." Then she didn't forget to praise him, saying, "Thanks to you, I can rest peacefully like this. You're the only part-time employee I can fully trust to leave the shop to." Hearing Yudu say that made Yeo Un blush. He shyly replied, "What's that? Suddenly you sound so cheesy." She stared at him. As if seeing through that little feeling, Yudu stepped forward and continued, "By the way, John Yu, are you busy on your day off?" He replied, "Probably not." She suddenly gave a cruel smile. "Then do you want to go eat beef with me?" He asked curiously, "What, suddenly beef?" She happily replied, "Consider it a thank you for all the hard work you did for me that day." Hearing that, Yeo Un began to laugh wickedly. "If so, pay me in cash." That comment made her furious. "What? I already paid you a salary." He laughed and replied, "More is better." Yudu shouted loudly, "You greedy money lover." Threatening didn't work, so she started begging. She cried out, "Come on, go eat with me. I'm craving beef so much." Yeo Un helplessly said, "If so, why don't you buy some and grill it at home?" She grabbed Yeo Un's arm tightly, tears streaming down. "No, I want to go to a BBQ restaurant. Grilling alone at home is boring to death. After eating, you have to wash up. Grilling is so hard it makes me want to cry, thinking about crying while cleaning up." Yudu imagined. "It's not like I'm living a fancy life. Doing that feels like a waste of effort. Excepting one thing at GA Yard, everything still runs according to the flow of time. Basically, it's simple. If people don't work, they starve." Elin paused when looking ahead. In front of him was a girl carrying a musical instrument on her back. Holding a phone, the radiant beauty of that girl made it hard not to be captivated.